Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to the Pipeline Podcast, episode 107. Joining me for today's very special episode, we have a very special guest, the one, the only, the fabulously amazing friend of the channel, founder of the Exit Over Here YouTube channel. It's Connor. How's it going, Connor?
Never been called a founder of a channel before. That's pretty cool. That's pretty fun. I like that.
I've been doing that lately. It's been a very fun thing of mine, just adding these, like, not lies, but things that are technically true. I've been calling people, like, CEOs of their channel, the, like, CEO of blah, 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 or, like, I don't know, it's just, like, Geek Drums Productions. They're technically a production of what they're doing.
They're producing videos.
It's just a fun little flair to add onto their already established thing.
Maybe I'll start doing that. Maybe every time I'm making a video from now on, I'll be like, "Hey, I'm the founder of this channel."
They're like, "This guy must be rich. This is crazy.
This guy must make a lot of money." I don't. But...
Ooh, and the Superman mug too. I love it. I love it.
A little Superman cup. It says "Last Son of Krypton" inside the cup.
Oh hell yeah! It's like a little secret for you, just for you.
Exactly. No one else just for me. Nobody else gets to see that.
Amazing. But no,
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. I was looking back at the last time. The last episode it was actually the recorded episode we did. We ranked the Walking Dead characters.
Yeah.
Recorded that mid-June. It came out first week in July. So it's been about 4 or 5 months-ish at this point.
I got just busy with work and stuff like that, so I had to kind of do the podcast less. But every time I'm on, I love 100%.
It. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, like we had a couple people where they're like, "Where's Connor?" And it's just like, well, he's out doing his own thing. He's out living his best life, and we love that for you. We love doing that, but we also love having you on. So, anytime you like coming on, it's always a blast. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, I love it.
But how have you been, man?
Yeah, I've been pretty good. Busy lately. Still trying to make time for non-stop TV shows where I can. Fitting in those episodes where I can. I've been good. It's I'm busy enough. Couple months. So it's been fun. I'm hyped for Joker tomorrow. Well, I don't know if hype is the word, but I'm gonna be there for Joker 2 tomorrow. So we'll see how that is.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. I'm probably going tonight. I'm probably.
Oh wow.
I don't know how I feel. I think I've been keeping myself. That's actually gonna be a topic later on in today's episode. But like I think I'm trying to like block out any anticipation because I'm like.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like if I start thinking about it, I'll just get way less excited. Like if I keep thinking about all the negative stuff, I'll be like, just go into it. Just try and block it. It's going to be interesting for sure. But obviously we haven't talked about what we've been watching since June, which has been a while. So I want to hear every single thing. No, it's can you imagine? Just you pull out a
How
giant
long
list.
Do you have? I'll get my serialized up and I'll just go through each individual show.
No, but I mean, what's been kind of on your radar in terms of things you've been watching or playing or reading or whatever the heck you want to talk about?
Well, in terms of new shows and like what's been coming out, Slow Horses is currently airing on Apple TV. Episode 5 came out yesterday, and the final is next week. But Slow Horses is like Gary Oldman. It's this spy show set in England. It's so good, and they've been so consistent with TV seasons coming out. It's like we're getting a TV season a year. It's like it feels kind of like The Bear, I guess, where it's like there's not a lot of episodes when the seasons do come out, but they're still coming out so consistently, and they're really, really, really good and really fun. Industry ended this week, the new HBO show. New. It's season 3 of it ended this week, and it got renewed for season 4 last week as well. So that's pretty exciting. Which Industry is like, it's like Succession, but in the English Wall Street sort of thing. And it's real good. It's real good. It's it's probably my favorite current HBO show, I'd say, like in terms of what's come out so far. The Penguin, obviously been watching that. That's been great. Agatha, haven't seen this week's episode yet. I think Agatha's fine. I mean, I wasn't super excited for it anyway, but I think it's like, it's not, I'm not disliking it, but I'm not loving it either. It's just kind of a I'll watch it sort of thing. Last night I started my rewatch of a show that you know a lot about. It's called Star Trek: The Next Gen. No, X-Men, the animated series. I started rewatching it, so I'm gonna finally get to X-Men 97 hopefully before the end of the year.
I am so curious to hear your thoughts on X-Men 97. Have you been spoiled yet for it? For like any of the
I've seen a lot of like just random clips of the animation and stuff like that. I know
Mhm.
like certain characters like Daredevil and certain people from the '90s stuff show up
Sure.
from the other '90s shows. But in terms of like I guess major plot spoilers, I can't really think of anything except for the fact that it apparently makes everyone love Cyclops now, which I'm one of the top Cyclops like fans since like
Yeah.
the X-Men movies right in the 2000s. I was always like,
Mhm.
Cyclops is cool. I want to see more of that guy. So I'm happy everybody else is doing that now. I've seen some of the animation clips of Gambit in the show, and it looks awesome.
Mhm.
Same with Jean Grey. I've seen some of the animated stuff with her, and it looks because
Gorgeous.
that was one of my
Yeah.
things when I saw the trailer for it. I was like not sold on the animation style in the
Okay,
trailer. I
cool.
was like, this looks a little bit not cheap or rushed, but it looks a little. It reminded me of I guess the more recent DC animation where it feels a little bit
Mm.
more slower, where like it feels like characters are in the background a lot of times doing nothing, sort of stuff like that, where it doesn't really feel like it's moving constantly. But then I see those clips posted on Twitter that were not in the trailers, and I'm like, that looks amazing. Like that looks like I guess an X-Men version of Spider-Verse in terms of like the color
Yeah.
and just the amount of stuff happening in the screen. Like I can't wait to watch it because of that. Yeah, it's kind of the major things I've been watching lately.
Yeah, man, there's certain scenes in X-Men where you're like, I can't believe we're getting this on like a Disney Plus. Because like, no
Yeah.
shame to Disney Plus. Half the time, it doesn't feel like they put in a lot of effort to their shows sometimes, especially their
Yeah.
animated stuff thus far. Like
Yeah.
Disney will put up stuff like Cars on the Road and Baymax. It's
Hey,
like,
Cars on the
that's
Road was
cool.
great. And
It
Zootopia, the
was.
TV show. Remember that?
But like, I wanted more from their like
Sure.
TV stuff, where it's like, oh, these are
Sure.
just like little shorts, and I was like, it's okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And there were scenes in that I was like, I can't believe they like somehow they got it. Like with everything weird that's happened with Marvel in the last couple of years, they behind the scenes they were just making this really cool show, and I'm very
Hmm.
excited that you haven't been spoiled on the major plot things. I do think
Yeah,
that
I,
is
I can't think of anything anyway. Maybe something will come up in the show where I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, that I remember this now. But like at the moment, I think because when the show was airing, like I remember kind of like every time someone would come up on my Twitter, I'd kind of block it out a little bit.
Mhm.
And then when you and Braden would be talking about it in the Discord, I'd make
Sure.
sure not to like click into the spoilers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I can't think of anything. But like I don't know, it visually what I've seen like from the clips posted looks so much more interesting than like What If did in terms of the animation.
Oh
Like it
yeah.
just looks like there's a lot more style going on there.
Yeah, I much prefer the style of the show. I
Yeah.
would honestly, like, since it's not coming out till 2026, it seems, I'd honestly recommend just doing like one a week. Because I think that was
Yeah.
the funnest way to experience the show, was like
Okay.
that week break in between being like,
Hmm.
no, like I need to watch it
What
right
happens
now,
next?
and
Yeah.
like the theorizing of it all. Like I think that's why I liked it so much, because I think we reviewed, not in the show, but my other show, we reviewed every
Sure.
episode, and we were just there like an hour talking about the show each week. It was like, this is crazy. It was just like the theory bounding
Yeah.
was so much fun.
Yeah.
So that
Are
I
episodes
think is a
20 minutes
little.
long?
Yeah, there were 20.
Okay.
I think the finale is almost like 40 minutes almost.
Okay, okay.
Like
I was just wondering, maybe I'll do like 2 a week then if they're like 20 minutes long.
that's not bad. Yeah, that's definitely not bad. And like there's a three, like the finale is like a part 1, part 2, part 2, part
Okay.
3. That one wouldn't be bad to group up together or whatever,
Sure.
but
Sure.
yeah, no, it's a blast. But no, I've been
Excited for
watching a lot of fun stuff in the last couple whatevers. I mean this week I think Transformers 1 last time no, I think it was both this week. I did Transformers 1, Wild Robot in
was
theaters
that?
this week. Both were phenomenal. Both
I
were
want to see
like.
Transformers quite a bit.
Do you like the like Transformers world at all? Are you a fan of that franchise?
I saw the second Transformers film in cinema for like it was like a 7th
Yeah.
or 8th birthday party I was at, and we went to the cinema to see Transformers 2, and I didn't like it. And I was like a 7-year-old, so I was like the prime demographic for it. So that's kind of my only exposure to the franchise.
Yeah, this was my first Transformers thing. I haven't seen the
Okay.
animated shows, the comics, the movies. So I
Sure.
went in and I thought it was amazing. Like I thought, like
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
think I liked it as much as people who are Transformers guys who
Sure.
like have been watching it their whole lives. But like
Sure.
the first half was like, okay, this is good, and the second, third half was like, oh, this is incredible. Like this
This
is
is
just a
great.
good animated movie. Does not even Transformers, just a good, great movie. So
Yeah.
Wild Robot's my number 1 of this year. Transformers 1
Okay.
is my number 3. So like they
Okay,
are
wow.
both in my.
Animation like topping your kind of your list then,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
Inside Out 2 is my number 2. So it's a great
Oh,
year
wow,
for like
okay.
animated stuff.
Damn.
So yeah.
Inside Out 2 is like my 15 or 16, I think. But there's like 35 films on that list so far though, so it's not like it's low down. It's just kind of in the middle area. But also, I'm not like as big of like a Pixar fan as like I mean, I love Toy Story, but that's kind of like
Sure. I'm also missing so much stuff on my list. Like, I've been pretty bad about like watching new stuff as much as I want. Like, my thing is like, oh, watch it on streaming, and then it comes streaming, and I just don't.
I just don't have the time or like forget.
It's just I hate myself for it. Like, Challengers just came to Prime over here. And
Challengers is so good.
I
think that's my favorite of the year. I think that and Dune are like my two favorites of the year.
Yeah, I'm excited. I hear it's good. But yeah, I've been watching a lot of fun TV. I'm getting through stuff pretty fast. I've talked to you about this on Twitter. I've been rewatching, or not Twitter, on our Discord. I'm rewatching Wizards of Waverly Place, which has been. I've talked about this a couple places. It's been one of the weirdest experiences I think I've ever had rewatching a thing. Because, like, I've rewatched things from my childhood in the past, but I feel like most of the things I consistently watched it through my youth. With, Ben 10 and Power Rangers, where Wizards was such a specific time in my life, and once I stopped watching it, I never, like, went back. Like, I didn't go back years later. So, there's this weird feeling of, like, communing with my younger self. Like, I'll put on an episode, and it will just unlock a memory that I didn't think I'd be able to remember from that stage of my life in a weird way.
Okay, interesting. That sounds great. It sounds like a nice little journey.
Yeah, no, it is. Like, I will just, like, have a memory of, like, a family member I just forgot about. It's like, holy shit, I can't believe I remembered
like,
this.
Whoa, Wizards of Waverly Place. You're giving me all these memories.
It's been really crazy. And it's been interesting, because it's, like, not good. Like, it's not, like... like, it's not good television by any means, but it's fun. Look, you kind of have to go into it with a certain state of mind. We're like, you listen, this is made for children. This is now almost 20 years old at this point, or however old it is. Acting's not always great. The stories and plots don't always make sense. Special effects look awful. Like, for, 2007 or whatever it was? Oh, some of it looks, like, horrendous, but that's also kind of, like, the charm of it a little bit. Yeah. So, that's been fun. I'm coming towards the end of my and this shouldn't have took me so long, but my David Tennant era of Doctor Who.
Oh, cool! Because you were on season 4, end of season 4.
Yes, we're doing the specials this week. But
there's a couple of them. There's 4
there's
specials,
like 6,
or 3 specials?
5 or 6. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But
I remember those being great. I remember the first time I tried those specials, I was like, oh, this is like this is the peak of the show for me. Like it was around that season and those specials that I was like, this is why I get why people like Doctor Who so much. I was like, this stuff is epic. Like, this is so well done. This is so hype. Everything's coming full circle. So much stuff from the Eccleston era or like the early Tennant eras are coming back to now, when you've got the crossovers with all the other shows. It's just it's a really exciting era.
Yeah, the finale was like the big crossover with like Doctor Who and Torchwood, which I've also recently kind of got back into, and Sarah Jane, which I didn't watch Sarah Jane, I don't really care. But also just felt like in the crossover in terms of like, well, Rose is back, and Martha's back, and the Donna stuff. It's like, this is crazy. Like, it brought me back to the feeling of those old Arrowverse crossovers, where just all the characters
feel like that, doesn't it?
Together. Yeah. I feel like they kind of predated what the Arrowverse crossovers would feel like, which is kind of fun. But no, that was fun. I'm sad to say goodbye to Tennant, because he's amazing. I've loved him so much. But so let's see what Matt Smith has.
Matt Smith is great. Matt Smith is great as well.
I hear he's great. Yeah. And since you've been on last, I've done all the Walking Dead spinoffs.
That's a big undertaking.
The new spinoffs, I guess. I have
sure.
I have Fear left. I have Tales left. Which I don't know.
Fear is just get ready for like the early seasons being like, wow, this feels like the only comparison I have for Fear the Walking Dead is The Flash, where the early parts of Fear the Walking Dead is like some of the best stuff you've seen in the universe. Is like some of the early stuff of Flash is some of the best stuff in the Arrowverse, but then the later stuff in Fear the Walking Dead, you're like, this is easily the worst stuff to come out of this franchise, like, and it's not even close. And it's same with Flash, where it was like, in those later years, you were like, this might be the worst stuff the Arrowverse has done. It's a really interesting show, but like, even during the bad eras of Fear the Walking Dead, they introduced some characters that you're like, how cool would it be if this character interacted with Rick, or if this character interacted with somebody else, And it's a shame they never really got to do a lot of that, because it does feel like at a certain point, Fear the Walking Dead was meant to, properly I remember like one of the early theories for Fear the Walking Dead was that the main characters in that show would ultimately be a villains group that Rick's group has to fight in the main show, because it feels like Fear the Walking Dead originally was more about a group of good people who turn into villains, whereas Rick's group is, they struggle the line a little bit, but eventually they're back to being really good people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm whenever you get to that show, I wouldn't mind rewatching. Whenever you're watching it, let me know. I wouldn't mind re-going through some of those early seasons of it.
Okay, that could be fun. I think I'm struggling to committing to another large Walking Dead show at the moment.
Yeah, it's a long show. Like, 8 seasons.
Yeah, because these two state of minds are arguing where it's like, I just got done with like what now is 150 episodes of this franchise so far.
Yeah.
What 16 some seasons. It's like 113 more episodes is a lot to.
It's a lot
commit to a new show. And like, do I want to commit to a show where I hear it's very mixed bags? Like, do I want to commit to another thing that has their ups and downs? So it'd be interesting. And then Tales, I just kind of don't care about. Like, I want to see that Terry Crews episode.
Tales is whatever.
It's whatever.
There is an episode about a villain from the main show, but even that episode is like kind of whatever. I think that the whole thing of Tales was like an interesting concept. But I think
it was Mother, right? It was the Whispers Mother,
yeah,
right?
Alpha.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you knew that, so I wasn't going to spoil that.
I'm pretty sure you told me that at some point.
Oh, did I? Okay, never mind. But Tales, like, if it got another season and they got to do like more episodes that were about other characters, it'd be interesting. Because there's one episode in Tales that is like, it's set further on than any of the Walking Dead shows. I think there's an episode of Tales that's just like 20, 30 years into the apocalypse.
Good
Something
Lord.
crazy like that, yeah. Which like Dead City is 17 years in, I think.
That's still wild to me.
Yeah,
I don't know why they did such
I don't like that they did that before the Rick show. I feel like the Rick show should have been the furthest ahead thing we got, and that Daryl and Dead City were like, around the time of the main show ending.
Yeah, because that takes away from like crossover-y stuff. Like, I feel like that's kind of lame. I don't know. I don't know. It's whatever.
No, I agree with you.
But yeah, no, I was very curious going into The Ones Who Lived, because like I heard so much love for it, and I heard you kind of had these mixed feelings through it. What was it that you didn't like about The Ones Who Lived? Because I feel like I maybe liked it a little bit more than you potentially.
I felt like episode 4 was. I felt the first 4 episodes set up a lot of ideas and a lot of really interesting directions for the show to go in.
Sure.
And then episodes 5 and 6 felt like a very sort of generic action movie sort of thing. I'm really, 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 really not a fan of episode 6. I think episode 5 is fine for the most part. I think it shows a decline, but it's still fine. But episode 6 to me has like some of the most rushed stuff we've seen. Like the fact that this whole CRM are like gone within, like the last like 5 minutes out of nowhere. They're just, everything's gone. This villainous group that has been being built up since season 7 of the main show, like that's almost 10 years in the making of that stuff, and for that to be tossed away so quickly, I also didn't love a lot of the dialogue where it was like, the character from Lucifer, I forget her name in The Walking Dead, but in the ones but the person who played the character from Lucifer, where she's like, she says something like, "In a dead world, love's dead," and then Michonne like grabs her and is like, "Love never dies," and I was like, "What?" That
was a very CW thing.
I was like, "What is this? This is not The Walking Dead at all." And like, I know that they said, The Ones Who Live was a love story. They made that clear, which is fine, but I feel like you can do that without having such in-your-face, forced, cringy dialogue like that. And I do feel like I remember when the episode first came out, and I made a tweet about it, and I was like, I didn't like that at all. It was like sort of like, I got a lot of people coming out and being like, "You didn't like it? Like, what the hell?" But then I made my review for it, and pretty much, like, the review did really well. It got like 1,000 or 2,000 views, and it seemed to be like everyone sort of agreeing, being like, "Yeah, I don't know what that ending was." Like the first 4 episodes were really good. Don't know what the ending was. And then like some of the other places I've looked around, it seems like now it's sort of more okay for people not to like it. But I do remember like the first like weekend that episode came out, it was like a lot of like, I don't want to say people were like, really trying hard not to dislike it. They were like, okay, we finally got it. I don't want to dislike it. But it felt like a lot of people were like really dismissive of any criticisms of that episode at all, and were like going after anybody who was criticizing it. And then the more the weeks went on, the more you got people being like, "No, I didn't like that either."
Sure.
It was a really interesting thing. It reminded me of like, I don't know. There was at one point this happened in like, I don't. I guess to compare it to like early days of the Flash getting a little bit weird. I remember a lot of people being like,
Yeah.
you know, they were really, really, really trying hard to justify why the show was the way it was at the moment. I heard there was one guy on Twitter who, like, during season 7 of the Flash, where I was like, oh, I don't like what they're doing this season. And I remember he was like super, super, super aggressive trying to justify why the show was still okay. And I was like, this is fine, but you know, and I felt like that to me with The Walking Dead: Ones Who Live. Whereas like at a certain point after that final came out, you couldn't say it was bad without a lot of people being like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Sure.
But that sort of changed then, I guess, a little bit. But you said you liked it, did you?
I think for the majority, yeah, I liked it. Like, I had some nitpicks, and I actually agree with everything you just said. I just think I feel like I had, I guess I didn't care as much about those
Sure,
things.
yeah.
Like,
Like we've been
okay,
waiting since 2018, 2017 or something
sure.
like that for this.
Yeah, no, like I did my review on it, or just kind of my like talking thing about it yesterday, and I was like, I think those top 4 are some of my favorite Walking Dead we've had since like 5 or 6.
Sure,
like,
yeah. The first 4 are
episodes.
great.
I thought they were. I think episode 4 might be my favorite episode of the Walking Dead universe. Like, I thought that
Sure.
was incredible. This just like healing of Rick Grimes was incredible. I thought episode 5 was when I was like, there's leaking of the boat. Like, I felt like, okay, this is definitely a step down. But I liked that episode a lot because it felt like early Walking Dead in terms of like the setting, just like Rick and
Sure, yeah,
Michonne.
with the forests and stuff like that.
Yeah, just helping people going around. Like,
Yeah,
that's kind of what
yeah.
I thought the whole show was going to be, because I don't really like the CRM setting that much. I think it's a little boring to me. So,
Sure.
like, I enjoyed them working together again, bonding again, kind of going on this little one-off mission one last time, kind of. I do agree with the finale. I actually liked the first half of the finale a lot. Like, everything with Rick and Terry O'Quinn. Like, I thought that was incredible.
Oh yeah, with Major Bill. Yeah.
Yeah, all like the flashback, the like compilation stuff, and all like I thought that was all great. Obviously, the ending I thought was perfect. Like Rick like reuniting with, his 2 children. Really, for the first time, I thought was perfect. The perfect ending for that show. I do agree though. Like, it just felt like, and now fast forward.
Yeah.
Like her, the character from Lucifer being like, you are right. He was wrong. It's like, you're trying to kill us like 30 seconds ago. Like, that was
there's a lot of flip-flopping here.
I think if it was a second season, like, I think if they would have, like, I don't know if they wanted to do a second season, if they really just wanted to be done or whatever.
They've been very weird about it. They've, like,
been
very sort of, whenever Denai or Andrew are asked in interviews, they're very like, well, we'll see what happens or whatever. But it is something where The Ones Who Live, I think, viewer-wise, it did 20 times better than Daryl or Dead City did.
Sure.
So I think, they might save it as like a break class in case of emergency thing. Whereas if the views start dipping in the franchise, bang, we got Ones Who Live season 2 coming out next year. Go watch that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, I think, because it did feel like there should have been consequences for what they did. Like, I thought, like, there's going to be a civil war. There's going to be, like, maybe they take control of this CRM, but the other CRM, because there's so many different stations and stuff like that. Like, the other stations would have heard what happened at this one, and then there's civil war, and then maybe we bring the other group here. Like, I don't know. I felt like there's so many things. I did also kind of want, like, I know this is just wishful thinking. Like, I did crave reunions from some of the other characters as well, because I was like, I want to see, like, the other characters meet Rick, but maybe they're saving that for, like, a Daryl Dixon or something like that.
I think they might be. Yeah, I think that's got to be the end goal, right? Like, Daryl, Carol, Maggie, we see them all reunite with Rick and Michonne. I feel like they've got to.
Yeah, like, especially before Daryl ends, because I feel like, and I know we've been on this for a second, I apologize, but, like,
no, I love talking.
I feel like Rick can't. I feel like Daryl can't without having reunited, because that's Daryl's whole thing up to this point. Is like he went out to try and find Rick again. Like, that was his whole point, right? So,
well, season 3 is for Daryl is supposed to be in Spain, I think. Like, I think that they're supposed to move there after season 2. So, like, we already know we're getting a season 3, and we already know it's not going to be anywhere near America. So I'm like, so what's the plan here? Is Daryl Dixon as a show just going to be all about him going around Europe? Like, is he going to get to Ireland at some point, maybe? And then he'll get a boat from Ireland over to back to America, and he's going to reunite with Rick then. But it's also like, whenever they do that, we know Dead City is still way far away ahead of them. So they're gonna have to line up those timelines somehow if they want that to include
Yeah.
Maggie and Negan as well. I don't know.
Yeah, the only reason it doesn't even feel like it's like what 10 years later or whatever.
It
Like
doesn't.
I think the only reason they did that was because of was it Glenn Jr.? Is that his name?
Yeah. Herschel.
No, Herschel. Herschel. Yeah,
Yeah.
Herschel. They just wanted Herschel to be like a teen, and
Yeah,
it's
they wanted
just
to
like
age him up a bit.
I don't know. It's whatever, I guess.
Because of recast, I don't think anybody would have minded that much if they just recast and said he was the age he was.
Just do a Carl. Just like he's 7, but he looks like a teenager. Like that's fine.
He's 7, but he looks 19.
Yeah, it's fine. But you just kind of wrap that up. Like, it was really cool to watch Daryl Dixon season 2, having
Sure.
like watching current Walking Dead for the first time, like
Sure.
retroactively, because the horror.
Your first episode of new Walking Dead. That's crazy.
New
Wow.
Walking Dead. Yeah, no, and that's the whole reason I started, because I wanted to be caught up with everybody else and have some of these conversations and be caught up with the franchise, similarly to what I would do with the Arrowverse stuff. So
Sure.
That's been fun. Did you watch the
I did, yeah. I watched it day before yesterday. Did you get spoiled on anything else yet? Because I heard that apparently all 6 episodes were accidentally put on Paramount at once over the weekend. So the other 5 episodes are out there, but I've only seen the first episode.
No, I didn't
get spoiled on
see
anything
that
else
at
yet.
all. No, I feel like I'm not deep into the fan base in terms of like internet culture and stuff, like YouTubers and stuff. So I haven't really kind of on my own outside of what I post personally. I really like the first episode.
That's a good way to be, though. Yeah.
Because I didn't mention this. I didn't really like Daryl Dixon that much. Like, I thought it was good. I just thought it was a little boring and sometimes a little hard to follow.
It's a very slow show.
Yeah, and maybe it's just. I do think maybe I realized I like Carol a lot more than Daryl at this point, because I was like, oh, maybe I actually would have just preferred a Carol spinoff, because she holds it very well. I thought just on her own doing her thing. Like, this works really, really well. Actually, I enjoyed it a lot.
It would have been cool if the show was like an anthology show and like a Walking Dead. Like season 1 was the book of Daryl Dixon, season 2 is the book of Carol, season 3 is like the book of Aaron or Gabriel or something like that. Like, it'd be cool to kind of use this as a show that gives us a season focused on one of the main characters from the other show, and then the final season could be all of them reuniting or whatever.
Sure, that'd be fun. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, because like I haven't thinking about that a lot. Like, where are they going in the like long run of it all? Like, what's the end goal?
I thought the Rick show was the end goal. I thought everybody versus the CRM. I thought, World Beyond, because the CRM are even a huge plot point in Fear the Walking Dead. Like, they're a huge part of that show. Yeah, and they never tied that into they tied, there's a little hints that get tied into, like, the bit where Okafor, remember, he's talking about cities he bombed, and he talks about bombing LA, I think it was. There's like they show a clip from Fear the Walking Dead of that happening when he says that sort of stuff. But like, I 100% thought the end goal was always going to be the CRM versus Rick, Michonne, Daryl Dixon's show, Dead City's characters, the World Beyond characters that are left, Fear the Walking Dead's characters. I thought it was going to be this big climactic event, and now Fear the Walking Dead's over. It ended with I don't know what you want to call it. World Beyond ended, and half the stuff that they ended with didn't tie in to the ones who live. Then World Beyond also ended with, you saw the credit scene, right? With Jenner giving the message to that for some reason Jenner talks about going to France, but the French stuff doesn't have any relevance at all to Daryl Dixon, who's in France. So it just feels so convoluted and all over the place. And like, there's bits there that make it feel like at some point they had a plan and they had a big narrative like goal to get to, and at some point they just threw it all out the window. I'm so curious to wonder what happened. Like, was it COVID that just messed everything up, or was it just they couldn't get certain actors back at certain times, so they just started throwing things at walls? But I don't know. It feels weird that Daryl Dixon and Dead City are like the two things now that have a direction. I don't know, or where we're going. I don't know.
Yeah, because I had even thought at some point, like, when I was way behind at this point, but I was thinking, like, Ones Who Live, if it's good enough, they could just make that the main show again if they really wanted to. Like, eventually they could just
I'd be okay with it.
Sprinkle everyone back. It's just the main show again, so it's like Rick, Daryl, Carol.
If Rick's back, I'd be so in for it, because like when he left the
it
show,
doesn't
the
feel
main
like
show,
he's
I was
done.
so sad.
Like it,
It doesn't.
like to me, it felt like an end of a chapter, but not
Yeah.
necessarily the end of an arc. Like I feel like he could just keep going, and like I
Yeah.
feel like the way they do these now, it seems more of like a movies. Like these seasons are more as movies, so you could be like,
Yeah.
he films a new season every 2 to 3 years, so it's not like he's
I'll be okay
committed
with
to
that.
a yearly contract or whatever. But
Which that was a big reason he left the show, was because he didn't want to be shooting in Georgia while his family were in England all the time, you know.
gotcha.
And if he just has to fly over for like 4 or 5 months every couple years, you know, to film something, like I'm sure that's something that he would want to do, because I'd say they'd pay him a lot, like especially since The Ones Who Live
Yeah.
did so much better than the other shows. Like there's a clear want for both Denai and Andrew to be back in the franchise. So yeah, I agree. I think it should be the main show again.
That'd be cool.
Because otherwise, are they just going to end the franchise out of nowhere? Are they just going to be like, Dead City ends after season 3, Daryl Dixon ends after season 4, and that's it?
Sure. Yeah, and you know, like I feel like Daryl could be the main show again. Like if Daryl is the main show for everything, I'd be down, because he basically what it was for the last couple seasons of Walking Dead.
Yeah, he was the main
Daryl show. So I do think he deserves that. Like I think he can obviously do that. It'd be Daryl and Carol. Like those two were the, I don't know. Like that's fine with me. That's the direction I want to
The
go.
two OGs.
Yeah, the only two left from the first season,
Yeah.
right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Besides Rick and Michelle, or Rick, I guess. But
Yeah, just Rick. But I mean, I guess you can't really count him as like a character in it anymore, since you don't know if he's coming back or not. Whereas you know Carl and Daryl are coming back.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, with that being said, we're gonna jump into a couple of these news stories here. We don't have too much, but a couple of things came out this week. And this first one isn't really news necessarily, but I do want to have a conversation about this because I do think it's kind of interesting. Your most anticipated movie of the year, clearly. Venom 3,
yeah,
The
The Last Dance. That is apparently not going to be The Last Dance or something. I don't know.
Tom Hardy continues to confirm that Venom: The Last Dance will be the last.
But didn't he say it's just the last for him? And that, like, I heard some rumors that some stuff in this one is clearly setting up a Venom 4, but Tom Hardy doesn't want to be... Okay, I won't mention too much because I think it is spoilers, because I think it's a lot of it's coming from like leakers or insiders. But Tom Hardy seems to be done, but it doesn't seem like Sony are done, which I don't know what that means. Whether they'll like
Flash or whatever to like
could do that. Yeah, exactly, like Agent Venom or something like that. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, just get rid of Eddie Brock.
Well, yeah, because I bring this up mainly because, like he said this before, we've known for a while this was going to be the last Venom movie. Sure. But like over the course of the last couple weeks, there's been a lot of rumors on the MCU side of it. Like there was a lot of rumors going around that he would be in Spider-Man 4. Like that was the main rumor, that that Noel would be the villain. Obviously, all speculatory stuff. But Noel was going to be the villain of Spider-Man 4. Venom was going to go over there. It was going to be that team. That was going to be the character he shared the screen with.
Yeah. I mean, hot take. I don't want the MCU to do Venom unless it's Tom Hardy's Venom. Like I think, I don't want a new Venom over, because we've seen a lot of Venoms over the past 10 years or so, 10, 15 years. Like I think, you know, if they're doing Venom in the MCU, if they're starting fresh again with it, I'm not too interested. I think do Tom Hardy or not. But I mean, I guess, you know, you can't really do Secret Wars either, like the Battle World version of Secret Wars, unless you're doing Black Suit Spider-Man, where he finds the symbiote for the first time. So we'll see. Yeah,
I'd be curious, because I guess the idea is like, oh, it's my last Venom movie, but not my last role as Venom.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I could see that kind of thing if that's what they want to go, and then he, you know, reappears in Secret Wars as well. But it does seem like he's kind of done. Like it does seem like he's want to be like, all right, I did 3 of these, which is more than a lot. It's weird. Venom.
And Hardy doesn't usually do that sort of stuff. Doesn't Hardy not usually like do follow-ups?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on his like filmology or anything, but like, yeah, I bet that's probably true. And it's so strange to me, like a franchise like the Venomverse or the Sonyverse that's so inconsistent, that's such a mess, managed to do a trilogy in a very short amount of time. What, first one was 2018?
Yep.
That's
6
great.
years for a trilogy. Movie every 2 years, pretty much.
Yeah, like we couldn't get a Superman trilogy, we couldn't get a Wonder Woman trilogy, Batman couldn't even get one movie, but Venom over here. That's actually a very like I think that's a very strange pattern with these comic book movies, where it's a character you don't think to get multiple like iterations
Yeah.
gets them. Like Venom has a trilogy, Joker has 2, Shazam has 2, Suicide has 2, Ant-Man has 3. Like it's kind of a strange a pattern that keeps happening. But
I think because there's less writing on the films, on like the first films, so they don't get nearly as much put into them as like you'd put into a Superman or a Batman sort of thing. So if a Superman or Batman film flops, it's a huge deal. If the Venom first film doesn't do like super well, then it's not a big deal. Like as long as it does better than they're expecting, which they're probably not expecting much, then they can get another one going.
Sure, they can just because they are on their own. There's not really a connectivity over in that universe, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and they just keep pushing them. I am, and we've talked about this on here before, but I do wonder what's the like longevity of this universe. Like, is Craven it, or are they going to start pitching new movies, start filming new stuff? Rumors there's a like unannounced Marvel movie for late next year, Sony Marvel movie next year. So. Maybe it's that like Donald Glover one, the one he's in or whatever.
Yeah. I would love Sony to stop. Like, I want them to stop more than anything, because I have not liked a single one of their Sony Marvel films. But like the thing is, I don't think Sony will stop, because they're making these films to stop Marvel from getting full rights, I think, or something like that, aren't they? So I think Sony won't stop for that reason, unless Marvel offers them an insane amount of money to get characters like Venom and Craven back, which I don't think they'll do. But I don't know. I want Sony to stop. I think they should stop making these films and just let Marvel make them properly. Because like outside of Spider-Man, I don't know. I think Sony doesn't have, outside of Spider-Man animated stuff, Sony doesn't have the best track record with their Marvel characters. Whereas like at least with Fox, you could be guaranteed that like every second X-Men film was going to be really good, Yeah.
I think maybe after Madam Web they were like, oh, maybe we should go a different direction. But I am worried if Venom 3 does well, which actually seems like it's going to. Like I said, like they're marketing it very well. Casual audiences love these Venom movies. And then I think Craven could, just because it's Christmas. Just because it's a Christmas movie, they could be like Marvel Christmas. Let's just go and see what the heck it is. Like I could see them doing well.
And there's like Sonic, Mufasa, and Craven. They're like the Christmas movies this year, aren't they? Yeah. Okay.
Lord of the Rings as well, and Liam Oz or whatever it is. Like that also comes out in December. Terrifier, I guess, also comes out. Like there's a lot this Christmas.
That's a weird film in Christmas.
I mean, I think it is a Christmas movie. Like it's
is it? Whoa.
Film. Yeah.
Terrifier was like a Halloween film.
Yeah, I mean it is, but like this movie's like he has a Christmas hat or whatever in the trailer. Like it's like a Christmas themed one. I think. I'm pretty sure. I haven't seen this movie. Just
good for him, I guess.
Yeah, just marketing to the whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we'll see what happens with Venom. We'll see. Just it comes out soon. Let's check up on us. I'm actually kind of excited. I don't know what happened. Like I went from I don't care to like that looks fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you guys have the pizza or no? That might just be like
we don't.
Australia thing.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of that sort of stuff over here. Even like the buckets we only get, or like the popcorn buckets we only get a certain amount. Like we got the Deadpool and Wolverine. Like we didn't get the Wolverine head one. We just got like this special bucket that has like Deadpool and Wolverine on it. That like was bigger than usual. Like we didn't get the Dune bucket. We're not getting the Venom bucket, which is a little bit disappointing or whatever. We did get the Taylor Swift Eras Tour bucket or whatever. I remember that was like all over the cinemas when it came out.
That's fun.
But yeah, that pizza. I don't think I'd put that pizza anywhere near me.
You kind of want to try it. I don't know.
I thought that you guys are getting like a SpongeBob Krabby Patty or something like that in Wendy's. Yeah, it's like a whole meal. I didn't watch SpongeBob growing up, but like my best friend's a massive fan. Like it's his favorite show of all time. Like I think we're gonna go next week, just get it, try it, because it's like a pineapple flavored not slushy, but whatever their ice cream mix is called. Like it's like pineapple flavor. It's like, oh, that actually sounds really good. I'm excited to try that.
But yeah, let's move on here. We talked about this a little bit already, but I do want to talk about it for a second. Joker 2 finds itself majority negative reviews ahead of upcoming film release that's currently out now as we speak. So this is like the
You
last
guys got
time.
it early. We're
Yeah,
not
I
getting it
think
until tomorrow.
it comes out tomorrow. Like usually that's how it works over here. It comes out
Yeah.
like early screenings Thursday, full release Friday. Yeah, no. Listen, we've talked about this on here a bit over the years. Like we talked about the trailer when it first came out. We talked about the budget when that released. We've done various different our beginning of the year video. We talked about Joker. We said it was going to be good. I'm honestly really surprised that seemingly people don't like this one, because like obviously it was controversial the first time. Like it was a controversial film. People loved it. People hated it. But this seems like a different situation. This seems majority of people think it sucks. What's your thoughts on this whole thing?
I don't know if this would be considered a spoiler or not, so I'm really sorry if it is. But I saw somebody tweet yesterday. They described it like it was the final episode of Seinfeld, where
I heard that.
where in the entirety of this film is just other characters describing what happened in the first film, and it baffles me that is the direction they would take this film in, because I don't know. Like I remember there was a long time everyone was like, "It's a musical. Joker 2's a musical, or whatever." I was one of the people who was like, most people were for that, but I was one of the people who was like, I don't know if it should be a musical, but it sounds like even this film can't really even be a musical, because there's like not that many musical segments, and the ones that are just they come out of nowhere, and they've got no context, and nothing is really, I don't know. It feels like a film that's constantly trying to throw things at you to keep you from thinking about it too much, where it's like every time the film gets a little bit too boring and you'll be like, better check my watch, then a musical scene will come up or something like that. But yeah, I think if this film is as bad as everyone says, it's an insane move to get Lady Gaga playing Harley Quinn in a apparent Joker musical and waste that. That seems like a crazy misstep. And I don't know what the ending is, but I'm really excited to see, because apparently it's one of the craziest endings ever. So yeah.
Yeah, not to spoil anything, but I was on another stream earlier in the week. We were kind of going through like the Rotten Tomato reviews, just seeing what people were saying, and some of it was just so disappointing to me. Like they kept saying how they wasted the musical element of it. That's the only reason I was excited for it. I was like, a comic book musical inside the head of Joe. Like I thought that was a great concept.
Yeah.
I thought it was
really cool. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, but like it feels like, and just from what people have said and what it feels like it's a musical that's ashamed to be a musical, and I think that's the worst thing you can be. Mean Girls was in a very similar camp, where it's like, we're just a reboot, and it's like, no, you're a musical. Show you're a musical, commit to it. But at least they committed. Like it was a full-on musical. This feels like it's a jukebox musical. Every interview is like, it's not really a musical. Yes, it is. You're just afraid to say that. It is. You made a musical. Yeah. And from what I heard, he doesn't make a good musical. He doesn't really know how, from what I've heard. He doesn't know how to make a musical. And it's like, that's so frustrating, especially like when this was announced. I said, like, with Joaquin Phoenix agreeing to come back, he seems like someone who's he doesn't come back to sequels very much. It doesn't seem. I thought like, this must be a really good movie.
Yeah,
like
the script
they
must have or something.
Yeah. And it seems like maybe it was just the money. Maybe it was like, we made $1 billion last time. Let's do it again. DC needs this. At one point they asked Todd Phillips to run the upcoming DCU. Like, it's crazy.
That's insane to me. But Todd
Can you
Phillips
imagine?
is the approach to make your DC universe.
Do you think it would have been like connected to Joker? That would have been crazy.
I mean, I guess like having Joker be the first film is an insane move, but if they wanted to build around it, they could. It's not the craziest thing in the world for it to be built around that, but it's also like the most insane film to have as the beginning of your universe that you could possibly have. Yeah, literally. like that the Joker was like, my least favorite thing that DC does is make everything about Batman. And if their new DC universe started with a Joker film, I would be like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and like you could definitely retcon some things. Like you could be like, well, he's not the real Joker. He's just the Joker
Yeah.
that inspired the Joker. Like that's been kind
Yeah.
of ideas that's been thrown around over the years. So like you could just be like, all right, blank slate. Now we're moving on to 10 years later. There's a Bruce
Yeah.
Wayne, whatever. Like you could do that. Although the movie would be set in like 40 or whatever at that point. So that'd be kind of weird as well.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
You
is
could.
Joker one's the 90s, is it, or is it 2000s?
Oh, is it inside the 90s? Okay, I thought it was like present day. I haven't
The
seen it
first
in a minute.
Joker was maybe it is. Maybe it's just the aesthetic of it. I haven't seen the film since I think like 2020. Maybe
I'm looking it up right now. When is Joker set? 1981. So they definitely that'd be way in the past. They would have to do like a massive 40-year time jump if they wanted to do that.
Which I guess that would bring you to present day.
But Bruce is a kid in that movie, so Bruce would be old as hell. He'd be 50, 60 in the main timeline.
Yeah, you'd have to set it like mid 2000s or something like that if you want like a normal like aged Bruce. But even that's so crazy. It's just so baffling because the first Joker film, it was filled with controversy, but like there was all this stuff going on about it, like surrounding like cinema screenings and stuff, like something might happen or whatever. But the first film, it did crazily well money wise. It was an Oscar contender. Like I was in first year of college.
It won, right? It won it won
did.
best performance, right? Or like best lead actor.
I think he did. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But I was in first year of college doing film when this film came out, and I remember it was like and I was in the kind of film class where a lot of people were like, oh, don't watch Marvel or DC films, they're not real films or whatever. I was always sitting there in my X-Men hoodie. I was like trying to pretend I didn't hear what they're talking about Marvel films. But like I remember it was a big deal as well because like one of our first what class? It was like pre-visualization class where you had to kind of do storyboards and stuff like that, and we had to act out scenes. And one of our lecturers printed off the script from one of the scenes from the Joker, and it was just so weird because that was not normally a film that like they would give the time of day in my college. They'd be like, well, it's a comic book film, whatever about it. But like this film it got into a lot of corners and a lot of circles that comic book films don't usually get into, which I think is really interesting. So for the second film to be just so apparently devoid of saying anything interesting or doing anything cool is
sad.
So frustrating. Maybe it should have just been a one and done film that kind of stood in its own as like being like, oh, remember how good that Joker film was? And now whenever you talk about the Joker film, somebody's going to go, remember how weird and out of nowhere that second film was?
Yeah, and I think it kind of ruins the reputation of that first Joker.
A little bit,
just kind of already, like now I'm thinking of Joker, I'm thinking of all this kind of weirdness around it. And I think it's what DC needed right now. Like I was very confident. I'm like, okay, we got Joker 2 and the Penguin and then Superman. Like I thought it was going to be a good launching point for DC. And like Penguin's great. The new Super/Man movie, that got high stuff too. I was like, okay, this is like, I was hoping for that slam dunk. By the time Superman was like, good, slam dunk by the end. And that doesn't help. It doesn't hurt, I don't think, because they're already kind of in a weird spot. But the only DC movie this year being bad.
Here's a question, okay? And I don't know, but I know the Penguin is DC Studios. I know Superman, the Christopher Reeve story is DC Studios. Is Joker 2 DC Studios? Because we know that the Penguin was the first project in DC Studios, and we know that they acquired Superman and the Christopher Reeve story to be DC Studios. So we're hearing that a lot of people are saying James Gunn's going for quality. He's picking up. He's only going to put the DC Studios stamp on a film that's quality or not. So I'm curious: is Joker 2 technically a DC Studios production or film at the moment, or is the DC Studios logo not on this? Because if the DC Studios logo isn't on this, I think that says a lot about how even James Gunn is thinking about this film at the moment.
Yeah.
So no.
I think that's a bit unfair if you don't. I think that's a little bit
unfair,
honest. Yeah, because there's a lot of controversy when you put it on Super/Man. People are like, yo, he didn't make the movie, he didn't whatever. And I was like, I think it's under the DC label. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But if you then pick and choose what you consider under your label, I think that's dishonest.
It is very much so.
you can't just be like, well, that one's bad. So actually, we don't. That's not associated with, like, that's not fair. You should own everything that's under your label at this point.
If it's DC, it should be under DC Studios.
Yeah, absolutely.
It reminds me of like the way when a Sony film comes out in the trailer, it always says in association with Marvel and not just Marvel. It's like Marvel Studios doesn't want to put their stamp on, Madam Web or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, our final story also has to do with the DC and the future of DC. We had a couple announcements this week, or rumored, some rumored, some highly rumored, some confirmed. Deathstroke and Bane project and a Robin-centric animated film are both reportedly in development at DC Studios. So big week for like Batman-related DC projects. Let's talk about the first one first. Now, this one hasn't been confirmed by James Gunn yet. Similar with the Teen Titans project and a couple little things that are coming over at DC. This one came out, and people were very upset when this came out. I saw a lot of controversy.
I did see this too, yeah.
So we don't know exactly what this project is, which is probably why James Gunn hasn't said anything. It's probably very far away at this point. But it's a project having to do with Deathstroke and Bane. Now, some people have pitched maybe it's a new Suicide Squad movie. Maybe it's some kind of team-up movie with various other villains. What's your thoughts on this? Just these two characters potentially getting their own project, or whatever it may be.
Well, I think we're way overdue for a proper Bane adaptation. I think, in live action, we've not seen, we've gotten the Gotham version, we've gotten the Dark Knight Rises version, which sure they fit in their respective their respective universes, but like they really kind of go full on with like Santa Prisca, the Venom stuff with that,
an adaptation of Venom.
Exactly. Deathstroke, I've always thought that character, like, I mean, I know that comic wise that character is one of the more problematic characters you'll have in comic books for reasons we won't get into, but in terms of like the character itself, like I think Arrow, Titans, Joe I always get his name wrong, Joe Manganiello, whatever, from his brief scene in Justice League, and then like in the Arkham Origins as well, like the fight against Deathstroke and Arkham Origins is so good. I think when you get a Deathstroke adaptation, like when you do something cool with it, he ends up being one of the coolest villains that DC has in their roster. But I 100% think that this film is not what people think it is, because Bane and Deathstroke were both heavily rumored characters for the Suicide Squad. I remember, I think even at one point James Gunn released a list of the characters he considered but didn't use, and both Deathstroke and Bane were on that list of people he was like, maybe I'll bring them into this film, but then he was like, maybe not, when he found somebody else who fit his roles or whatever differently. Also, people are saying that this could be like a Secret Six film, which I've Secret Six is so cool. I think that Secret Six has one of the coolest DC characters of all time, Thomas Blake, aka Catman, and people do not give him the respect he deserves. He's got a cool ass costume and he's a cool ass character, and I can't wait to see him in live action. And this film might give me that, so I'm excited for it because of that. But I think either Secret Six or something based around other heroes is likely for this. I don't think this is just going to be a Deathstroke Bane team up film. I think either it is Secret Six and it leads into a wider project, because I think James Gunn has already talked about how he's a big fan of like Gail Simone and the Secret Six stuff in DC. But I also think this also could be connected to having like Dick Grayson involved, and if it has Dick Grayson involved, especially with Deathstroke, this leads very much into a Teen Titans film. So I think, it's going to be something like that, where the project probably includes other characters in a big way, and it will lead into a wider DC project. I don't think it's just there for like, here are two villains, put them together, see what happens,
Yeah, no, I think, and like, as far as villains to get their own projects, like, these would be ones I'd be okay with. Like Deathstroke, I think, I'd watch like a Deathstroke movie. Like if they just announced, hey, we're doing a Deathstroke film, I'd be like, yeah, give it to me. That's sick. I think Bane's really cool. But yeah, no, I definitely agree. I do think this will probably be a part of a larger film roster. This happens a lot, I feel like, when like, oh, it's going to be at this movie. We're like, okay, and then it changes later on. We're like, no, it's actually a Suicide Squad or whatever it may be. I'm definitely open to it. I do think we are in kind of a weird space though with a lot of these kind of DC things where it's like they're being announced by various sources and like Hollywood Reporter and Deadline and stuff like that. We're like, okay, this is official, but like the DC brand will not acknowledge it at all. Like it's like and it's like, but is it real? Like
Has Gunn debunked it yet? Has he done a tweet saying this isn't true?
He hasn't said anything about this.
Okay.
He hasn't mentioned Teen Titans at all.
I feel like that's got to say it's real then if he's not debunking it, right?
I think he's learning though. Like I think he's doing better. Like I think he's realized like if I debunk everything, people will know when something is real. And so I think he's getting better about being less offline. I also assume when he's working on Superman, he's working on Peacemaker, he's getting productions for things like Lanterns and Woman of Tomorrow. Like he's busy. That man is busy. So he might just
busy.
Not as much time. Maybe he's not like as chronically online as he used to be.
Yeah, that's fair. I think as well as like if like Damian Wayne is in Brave and the Bold, then it makes sense to have like a Dick Grayson cameo in there, setting him up for this film, which then leads into Titans or something like that, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, speaking of speaking of Dick Grayson and Robin and Damian Wayne or whatever, a dynamic duo movie is heading over at DC.
Red Hood and
seemingly is a animated DC Elseworlds theatrical release, with a very interesting animation style. I don't know if you saw the video from like the production company that's doing the movie.
I saw bits, so I didn't watch the whole video.
And I saw that and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know what, like, it's just very unusual.
It's very different, which I like, which I think DC needs. But also it's like, I have to see what it looks like first. Like, I can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm down with this already. Like, I bet it'll be cool. And it feels very, like something like this. Like, this definitely wasn't like a David Zaslav, decision. This is like a James Gunn, hey, we're doing creative thing. We're doing new and unique concepts. Like, we're doing these fun, various ideas. And that's again, it feels like everything James Gunn's doing is from the perspective of someone who likes to make art. And that's what this feels like to me.
We've got filmmakers making decisions and not, big execs sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it really feels like, hey, I have this cool idea for these characters. He seems like he's reaching out to various different filmmaking companies, various directors, various writers, and being like, hey, is this something that you would like to work on while I'm working on A, B, C, and D? But what's your kind of thoughts on this entire pitch, this entire upcoming thing?
No, I completely agree. It's something that's really, really interesting. I don't see a reason why they shouldn't go ahead and make something like this. I think it's cool to start off with Nightwing and Red Hood as well as the first kind of characters you're doing with this, because I feel like these are two characters that they're very, very, very popular in the comic book circles, and they're well known enough that people who aren't super into comic books probably know who they are. Red Hood's one of those characters who people who don't read comics still are very much aware of, and who aren't in our circles are still very much like, oh, Red Hood, isn't he that cool Robin that goes around killing people or something like that? So I think doing an animated film about those two will do well, because it's as characters there's also a really good contrast between Dick and Jason. I feel like that will lead to a really good dynamic going on. And I'm excited to see what they mean by the whole they're saying the puppetry is going to be involved, as well as traditional animation and some other stuff. What exactly will this look like? And I am happy that this seems to not be the DC universe. This seems to be its own Elseworlds thing. I think that projects like this work really, really, really well for Elseworlds, and it's when we start combining this with the main DC universe that things get a little weird. But no, I think it sounds really cool. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm just sharing my screen here really quickly, because I do just want to take a look at the reel that they had posted from that studio, because what a fascinating direction to take for a DC movie. Oops, I have too many tabs open. Sorry. But what a direction to take. To just take from a like this looks cool to me. Like this
It
looks
does look
incredibly
cool. It
cool. Like
looks
with the
really
movie with
cool.
the
Yeah.
style, I'd be like, yeah, I'm checking this out. But I would have never imagined it from DC. Like a
No.
DC movie looking like this. That's crazy.
I mean, I didn't see this stuff. This gets me like 10 times more excited. Like, this is absolutely the kind of like visual style that I think would set DC apart from Marvel pretty quickly. Like doing cool stuff like this.
Yeah, and I mean, instantly with that announcement, like when they first announced, I felt like, you know, they're making like a Swamp Thing movie, which instantly like doing like Marvel doing like a rated R horror movie is something they definitely would not have done phase 1.
Yeah, it's like unheard of.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the Authority, no one knows who the Authority is. That's such a like a out of left field kind of announcement. Cameron in the comments says, "I think James Gunn not debunked the movie probably means the movie news was around the time of his friend." That is also a thing that's recently happened. His friend recently passed away.
I did not hear about that.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. Also, hello, Cameron. Nice to have you here. Thank you for being here. But yeah, no, I think, you know, DCU's getting started. You know, Lantern's been castings. What's your thoughts on like the Lantern casting that's recently come out? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, Kyle Chandler. I saw some of Friday Night Lights, and he was really, really good in that. I think he's got the traditional Hal Jordan look. I'm personally not super crazy about the idea of them killing. Well, we don't know if they're going to kill Hal, but of like, you know, he's got a one project deal. So I think that probably says a lot about how much the character's going to be around. And I think for your first real proper adaptation of the Green Lantern mythos, maybe don't. I mean, I'm completely fine with Jon Stewart being the main Green Lantern. I think that's a great idea. I just also think, you know, you should still have Hal as a present but background character, somebody who you can still bring in every now and then, and it feels more like they're going to use him as somebody to push Jon Stewart's story along. Which that's fine, but like, you know, I think I'm still hoping for the day where we see like Hal, John, Guy Gardner, Kyle Rayner all alongside each other, you know, like the real sort of 2000s era of DC sort of thing. But we're probably not going to see that. But still, I'm excited to see Jon Stewart as sort of a main character. Going forward, that's going to be pretty cool. And the front runner for the moment is the guy from Rebels Ridge, isn't it? From the recent Netflix movie.
There's two. It's interesting because the casting apparently was supposed to happen the other day, and we've heard nothing about it thus far. So there's been some rumors. Maybe none of them. Like maybe they're going a different direction.
Oh, they're changed. Okay.
We'll see. I do think it's like, you know, like I do think that's the one thing I'm kind of a little bit concerned with, like the ages of everybody's characters right now. I do think is not a bad choice, but an interesting choice. Like having
like 40 years older than Clark is a bit crazy.
Yeah, like Hal Jordan is 50. The actor's 58. Booster Gold's in his 50s. Batman's going to be probably in his 50s. Like, not necessarily a bad choice, but a very untraditional choice, especially in contrast to Superman. Like, interesting. Like, it seems like there's going to be like this is the first generation superheroes, and then Superman's going to be part of the second gen. Like, I assume alongside like Nightwing, Wally West,
which is crazy, isn't it? It's for the Justice League for the original Justice League to be characters like Hal Jordan and Bruce Wayne, but have no Clark Kent. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That would be kind of an interesting. Like, I do wonder if that will be the line. But honestly, I guess that's kind of like the Justice League animated show lineup, where it's like Superman, Batman, Wally West, Jon Stewart. Like,
yeah, they did do Wally. That is true. I do always forget that Wally was like there alongside all of them, like in that show.
I guess it's kind of, and we already have Hawkgirl. Like Hawkgirl's already introduced. I don't know if they'll leave her on the JSA or maybe they'll move. I don't know. Like maybe they are just doing that lineup again. Like he said, that's inspiration for them. Maybe they're just doing that same exact lineup again. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, because we're expecting that group to be the Terrifics, aren't we? Or it's like Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, Metamorpho, Hawkgirl, and stuff like that. And like maybe they're like a separate team run by Maxwell Lord, or like part of like Justice League International. Well, no, I guess they will be Justice League International because they had like the logo, didn't they? Yeah, sure. I know it's interesting to see. I'm like super on board with the Reverse Kingdom Come idea of Superman coming in, changing sort of the way heroes are. But I think that works better when he's coming in, changing, you know, Guy Gardner or Mr. Terrific or Metamorpho. I don't know how I feel about him coming in and changing like characters like Hal Jordan and Bruce Wayne, because I feel
Yeah.
like, doesn't that not necessarily limit their characters, but it's sort of weak. It cheapens Batman and Green Lantern on their own merits, because it's like
Sure.
they weren't good, or they weren't like traditional heroes until Superman shows up. I
Sure.
think that's maybe a problem. I don't know. We'll see what they do. We don't know what they're doing yet. They could do something completely different.
Sure. Absolutely. And yeah, speaking of Superman, we kind of step into our main thing here.
Hell
We don't
yeah.
have to talk about it too crazy long or anything, but the final season of Superman and Lois airs in days. We are now
No, Monday
days
night,
away from the final
Tuesday
season.
night?
Monday. It's
Monday.
well, maybe it's Tuesday for you. It's I
Yeah, I think
actually
it'll
don't
be
know when it
Tuesday
airs
for
for
me.
you.
Okay.
But it's Monday, at least here in the USA, and final season. I mean, listen, like I really wanted to have you on for this one, because obviously I feel like the crusts of our friendship really, and our entire friend group really, was kind of like
CW.
derived from the CW stuff.
Mhm.
And I guess kind of Superman, because like we met kind of through, weirdly enough, Supergirl. Like Supergirl
Yeah, it
was
was
kind of the
Supergirl.
thing I met you through, and obviously Superman Lois is a spin-off of Supergirl, if you will.
People are gonna say no, it isn't, but it absolutely is.
No, it
'Cause
absolutely
it's
is.
been a
Like,
spin-off, yeah,
if it's canon or not now, it's 100% a spin-off of
it's
Supergirl.
yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
like there's no, or just the Arrowverse as a whole. Like, you know, like you can argue it's a spin-off of the crossover stuff, which
Sure,
that'd be fair, I guess, too.
Or like Elseworlds or something like that.
Absolutely. I think Elseworlds was like a backdoor pilot. Like, I think it was
Yeah,
kind of like, okay,
it does feel like that.
yeah, it's like, okay, throw Lois Lane in there. People are liking these guys together. They're liking the like dynamic. I actually think they do, because it's the same with that one. Like that one was like throwing the crossover. People like them. They're dynamic. Then pitch your show or whatever. But no, I mean, to get us started, like, what's your opinion on the show as a whole? Obviously, we're heading to the final season. We now have 3 seasons under our belt. We've had a very long wait going into the 4th season. What's your opinion on the show just as a whole?
I think Superman and Lois is like one of the most interesting adaptations of Clark and Lois. I mean, I think like how Tyler and Bitsy both play the characters are phenomenal, and I think them being at the top of anybody's rankings of Superman actors and actresses makes complete sense. Season 1 of the show is like a borderline perfect season of television. I think it's fantastic. I remember every week that show coming out was like a mini Christmas sort of thing. Every time there was a new episode, it was just so good. I remember because when season 1 was airing, there were so many breaks. It was like we'd have 2 episodes, and then they'd be like, "Oh, we're not back for a month" or something like that. And it's
season 2. That was season 2, I think.
Oh,
that was COVID.
But they did that in season 1 as well, because season 1 was COVID too, because they got COVID after I think filming
There's a couple
episode
breaks
5.
in season 1. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like we'd got like a huge break before episode 7 came out, and then again after that. Because season 1 was 2021, I think, wasn't it? Like February 2021 it started in. But yeah, I think season 1 is just a great season. Now, I had my problems with season 2. I've talked to you about them before. I think season 2 fell down a decent bit in terms of quality, but I think it was still a solid season of TV. I think I had really, really, really high hopes after season 1, and I don't feel like season 2 was able to reach that at all. And then season 3, I think, is some of the most emotional, heartfelt comic book television you'll ever see. Like it's so good.
No, absolutely. I remember that night it premiered, and I don't know if you had ended up watching it. I don't think you watched it live, right? Like the first episode, but that first episode airing, that premiere, I think is one of my favorite like TV experiences of all time. Because obviously, like, yeah, it was coming off of the Arrowverse, coming off of Crisis. We kind of had expectations on what these shows were and kind of what the format was, and like that premiere was like a dream, where it was like, oh, this isn't only just a good CW show. This is like peak television. Like, this is just such a good show in terms of like the special effects and the way it was shot and the acting and what they were doing with that story, and like that was such a special experience. And like the whole world, I remember that night on Twitter was crazy, because no one really was checking it out. People were like, yeah, it's a it's CW Superman. Who cares? And that night on Twitter, like I remember when they posted the like scene with the car and the kid. It was like, yeah, my mom made it for me. Like that getting posted on Twitter and everyone being like, whoa, that's so cool. All the clips being shared and it going around. And yeah, I think Superman and Lois is just a good TV show. I think it's just like, by and large, we've seen a lot of CW stuff. We've seen a lot of seasons of TV. I think it's easily some of the best stuff the CW has ever made by like a large amount. Like I think it's Stargirl, you know, some of the earlier Flash stuff, earlier Arrow stuff. I'd even argue like early 100 kind of goes up in my list as well. But I think Superman, I don't know. It's very few stuff on the CW I think kind of comes close to it for sure.
I think visually, Superman and Lois might be the best looking CW show 100%. They've ever had. I think the cinematography in season 1 especially is just fantastic. Yeah. Like it looks so good. Like the fact that people kept saying it had to have been half funded by HBO Max because of how
people
good the show looked. Yeah, they do still say that, but like that shows how good the show looks. That people were like, well, this can't be a CW show. It has to be half HBO Max or something like that. Like that's the only reason it looks this good. When no, it's just because it's CW. It's just because they have good people working on it.
Yeah, and it inspired, I think, almost all. It felt like it was trying to inspire all the other shows, because I think from that point on, you could tell some of the other shows were trying to implement some of those ideas. People were like, oh, they're doing, like, I remember David Ramsey going on the set. I think it was David Ramsey was going on the set of Superman Lois. Like, oh, they are setting the precedence for the CW going forward.
Yeah.
Like, they have set a new foundation for what can be expected from them. And even like Batwoman and stuff, I felt like that season, like, oh, they were trying to make their stuff look a little bit better in terms of, you know, like the way it was shot and stuff like that. They didn't succeed in the way Superman and Lois did, obviously, but all the other shows seemed like they were trying to have a crisper look and like a better whatever it may be.
Didn't Flash change its aspect ratio like the year after
I think
Superman Lois started? I'd like to get that more cinematic Black Bar sort of look going on, which I think, you know, showed that like the Flash was trying to up their visual look a little bit to match Superman and Lois.
Armageddon looked great, and I feel like after that they kind of gave up a little bit. They're like, it's whatever. It's like we're not changing people's minds at this point.
And we're ending next year anyway. Who cares?
Cameron, that was a rumor for a very long time.
Yeah, I believed that for a while too.
Yeah, it was not actually funded by Max. It would have been nice. I would have loved if Superman could have, after everything happened with CW, moved them to Max, let them keep going. Like My Avengers would have been great, but that just unfortunately is not the case. Hello, Chainsaw. Welcome. Thanks for being here. And if you guys have not seen it, last week's episode is our highest rated episode of the whole show. So thanks to Chainsaw for that. I very much.
You were on Superman and Lois last week.
Oh yeah, totally. But yeah, no, I love it. I obviously love the show, and then kind of going into this final season, how are you feeling? Because it's been a long road to this point. What the last season aired in? Was that 2023? It was 2023.
It was mid 2023. It ended, because it was like July, June, maybe. It was around when Secret Invasion started, because I remember there was like 1 week where I had an episode of Superman and Lois on Secret Invasion at the same time.
Right. So it's been about a year and a half since the last season. Yeah. Since then, it was announced it would be the final season. Announced they had the whole debacle with a lot of the cast confirming not returning for the final season. Thus, them then coming in as guest stars throughout the season. You know, Lex Luthor was announced as a series regular. Like, there's a lot of things that have happened. All these other CW, like I feel like CW, it was bad then. I feel it's even worse now. Like Walker's gone, All American Homecoming's gone.
Yeah, it ended last week or today. Was it last night?
I think it was like either last night or the night before last night. It's like really right now after the CW is done. Wildcard is really their only original.
Hey, Wildcard is great.
No, because Wildcard is an acquired show too. Like I think it's from Paramount or something. Only original show they have left is All American. I think that's it for them. Everything else is acquired. So I mean, how are you kind of feeling going in?
I mean, it's something that I don't think it's really hit me yet that the show is back, but I think it's because it's been so long since we've had an Arrowverse. I mean, I know people don't consider Superman Lois Arrowverse, but it's still in that style of like the CW era of DC shows. You know, like that era. Like it's been so long since we've had anything from that part of TV, that it doesn't feel real to me yet that next week we're getting a new episode of it. So I think like when I'm watching it, that we're still getting the 2-hour premiere, even though they moved up a week, aren't we? So when they moved up a week, did they just change it to
still
one
2
episode?
hours, yeah.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
still 2 hours, yeah.
So watching those 2 episodes, I feel like it's gonna hit me like we're back, like we're back doing it. Like and I am curious to see how the budget cuts affected the show, because we know that it wasn't just cast members and episode counts getting cut. We know that like writers were let go from the show as well due to the cuts. But I mean, the reviews for the first 3 episodes are like, oh, the show is as good as ever. So I'm interested to see like if there's a noticeable change in the writing. Not to say like there's going to be a quality change, but if there's going to be a noticeable change in how they handle certain things, or if like there's a different kind of pace to the show, or if it's just, it's going to be, I don't know. We'll see anyway. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I can't wait. Sorry, one sec. There's a kitten like crawling all over my keyboard.
Let us see the kitten. Let us see the cat.
He's right there. He's hanging out.
Oh, this is so cute.
But yeah, no, I'm excited.
Absolutely. I definitely feel you. Like, it hasn't fully processed in my brain that it's back. Like, I feel like I'm in a very similar spot that I was with Stranger Things season 4, where I feel like in my brain, Stranger Things ended, and it felt like, like in that season, it felt like I had jumped into an alternate reality where it got a 4th season. I was like, well, this is so trippy. Like it's been so far removed at this point that
not been part of your life for a while.
Yeah, no, it's gone. I think especially in comparison to what the CW stuff has gave us in the past, where it's like, well, every 6 to 8 months we get new seasons of these shows.
Yeah.
And with Flash ending, like there is a part of my brain like Arrowverse is done. Like the CW stuff is over. For sure. A lot of my brain was like, we are moving on to other things, to them being like, actually, guys, we still got one more season. Come back. Like, we're over here, guys. Come on over. No, you're very right. I'm curious what my, like, I don't know, I guess emotional response is going to be to that final season. Because, like, like with the Flash and stuff like that, like, I feel like I always had it was sad, obviously. When Arrow ended, it was sad. When Super ended, it was sad, but I always had this like, but there's still at least one more. Like there's still other stuff in this fandom to watch. Like Arrow wasn't sad to me because I was like, oh, I have Flash and Green Arrow and the Canaries and Black Lightning and Supergirl and Legend. Like I was like, it's just
and Painkiller, right?
Oh yeah, it was like a cast of the show is leaving, but I still got all these other things.
Yeah.
And each one has been sadder and sadder as they've dwindled away. So I'm going to be curious to see how I react to the final season. Like, how is that journey going to go? Yeah.
Because like I'm expecting the show to be emotional because it always is. But like part of me is also hoping that the show takes more of a season 1 style tone to it, because season 1 had its emotional moments, but I felt like season 2 was for the most part still quite sort of a fun show. Whereas season 3 was still fantastic, but it was a heavy emotional show. And I think that was great, but I wouldn't mind them to go back to being a little bit more lighthearted for the final season, which I know, adapting Death of Superman, it's going to be hard to do that. But I think, because I'm surely Clark's going to be back after a certain amount of episodes. So I'd like, well, I mean, I don't know, maybe there's someone out there that says he's going to be dead all season. I don't know. But I think once he comes back, I would hope that they're going to do something, like a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more Superman, like traditional Superman style with it. But we'll see.
No, absolutely. Like, it is very funny because, going into the 4th season, we were like, okay, because I love season 3. I think season 3 is fantastic. Like, it's emotionally draining. Like, it is tough to watch. That's why I love it. Like, I love
it's not a binge show.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I have friends in this space that they think season 3 is easily the worst season because they don't like watching it. And like, I was like, that's valid. That is so unbelievably valid because it is hard to watch. And like at that time, like I had a uncle kind of going through chemo at that, like similar, like that journey kind of started at the same time. And recently it's, he's kind of made through it, which is amazing. But like at the time it's like, oh yeah, like I can relate to this in such a specific way. And like I think season 3 is what made Betsy my favorite version of Lois, because I think she's just
so good.
I think she should have been nominated for an Emmy. Like obviously, like
absolutely,
Lois, shouldn't, like, obviously, like, CW would never gets viewed for those type of things, but I think her performance was Emmy worthy last season.
Yeah,
Tyler's was too,
really good.
obviously, but I think specifically like Betsy last season, incredible.
I
Like,
think
top tier.
she's consistently the best part of the show. Like I think everyone is great, but I think
Mhm.
like her Lois Lane is consistently like even in season 1, it's fantastic. Like I think it's episode 8 where Jonathan goes inside John Henry Irons's his RV, and then she
Yeah.
just breaks down at him about it and is like, you can't do this sort of stuff. Like we're not bulletproof. You know, your brother and your dad might be super, but we're not. We have to like take care of each other and stuff like that. Like
Yes.
I think it's fantastic. It's so good.
That's my favorite episode of the whole show.
It's
Like,
so good.
I think like Lois, it sucked. Like, this sounds terrible, but I love when Lois is sad because
Yeah.
Betsy does such a good job with it.
Yeah, she brings
And
it
yeah,
out.
no, I love like the therapy sequences. Like in that episode are just top tier. It's like I didn't want to lose my child again. It was such a like a real like such emotionally driven moment, and I think you know I really, not to get off track here, but I kind of figured we were going to, but like I love this version of Lois Lane because it's such an interesting perspective of a superhero and their partner having that trouble of like, well, what does a normal person do when your partner is Superman? Like the latest season of Invincible kind of, I thought that was a very fun parallel. Obviously, 2 separate shows, but like this idea of like someone who's been doing it for 20 years, and then Amber and Mark, people who are struggling with that for the first time. I think those two were a fun little parallel. I was referencing Superman and Lois a lot because it's like Lois Lane is so fun because she does struggle with it sometimes. Like it's hard to be the wife of Superman, and like that dynamic is why I've always wanted Jonathan not to have powers, because I thought it was a much more interesting dynamic of like one son to have powers, the other not. How do they manage that? And they didn't always handle it right. Like I feel like sometimes Jonathan was the one that got left out of the loop a little bit, unfortunately. But
yeah, it does feel like the show focuses on Jordan a lot more.
Yeah, it's and that's the thing. I don't know if there's necessarily like a solution to that. Like because I think if you give him powers, that also kind of makes both of them a bit boring, because it's like, well, now that dynamic is gone. Yeah. And then you run into the problem that every CW show had run into, where it's like, well, we have too many superheroes. You have too many superheroes, and like it's like the superheroes we have aren't special anymore.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad they didn't go into that direction, which they could have eventually. Like I feel like, I mean, that's a question I can ask. I know we're going all over the place now. I'm sorry, but like, do you think Jonathan will get powers in this final season?
I was somebody who thought he should have gotten powers originally, but I think now it's too late. I wouldn't like them to do it in the final season. I think if it was going to happen, it should have happened around season 2, when they were exploring sort of the bizarro world where we had Jonathan who had superpowers over there, the Superboy. But I mean, I think if they were going to give him powers, it should have been what a lot of people kind of thought it was originally going to be, like sort of like a Superman Red and Blue sort of thing, or like a Wonder Twins kind of thing, where the two of them are stronger together and they're weaker when they're apart, sort of thing, that their powers are mostly prevalent when they're together. Like I remember a lot of people were saying like Jordan could only activate his powers in the early episode when Jonathan was there, so a lot of people thought that was connected somehow. And I think if they were going to give Jonathan powers, it should have been that. It should have been they either both have powers kind of when they're near each other, or neither of them have powers. Like, and then you can explore a lot of cool storylines where you have to separate them to keep them safe or something like that, or you have to kind of keep them apart. And then you get those cool epic moments when you bring them back together and then they are super powered and stuff like that. I think that would have been really interesting to try and do. But yeah, I think, you know, it is a bit too late now to do that with Jonathan. I think at this point, just keep Jonathan as the human part of the family along with Lois. I think we just need to give like serious props to the show for being one of the only superhero comic book shows that deals with real problems. Like you said, focusing on what a real human being is like when they're married to Superman. And I think going further than that, you know, the show dealing with things like a cancer storyline or things like losing a child are so incredibly real and serious topics that like a lot of comic book TV shows would not go anywhere near. And Superman and Lois is like, oh, we'll tackle that. We'll actually see, you know, we'll explore that deeper and see what that means when you combine it with being married to the most powerful person on the planet. Like it's so interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's the direction you probably should be taking Superman and
Mhm.
these very cosmic level kind of heroes, because people are like, well, Superman's boring. He could stop
How do you make him
any
relatable?
enemy. Where it's like, well, he can't punch cancer.
Exactly,
He can't
exactly.
super speed childhood and like
Mhm.
homework and like yeah, no, shout out to them because I was talking about this somewhere. I don't know where. Actually maybe it was you. No, it was somewhere. I don't remember where it was at. But like I think sometimes when you pitch a show, that first season, I was like, okay, this is the general themes and ideas and concepts of a show.
Yeah.
Where the concept of Superman Lois was, what if Superman was a father? What if Superman was a more domestic, family life?
Mhm.
And I feel like sometimes you kind of lose the OG concept of your show. And I feel like the show has consistently stayed on the path of like, yes, this is a show about Superman being a father.
Yeah,
And it never
100%.
derives from that. It's never derives from Superman being a family man. And there's so many just variously different like dynamics that could be at show. Like I know a lot of people sometimes don't like Jordan or Jonathan, and I had my issues with them last season. But also, it's like I think a lot of it's also just real. Like
Sure.
children are annoying sometimes. Children just do stupid stuff. Like and it's like, well, yeah, but add the teenage hormones and add the teenage weirdness. But now he has superpowers. Like what
Yeah.
what does that look like for him, and how does
Yeah.
Clark deal with it? It's so fascinating.
No, I completely agree with all that. I think sometimes the show doesn't handle the balance as well as it could when it comes to like the Jordan Jonathan stuff along with
Sure.
the Clark Lois stuff. Because I mean, I remember like there was, as good as season 3 was, there was an episode I remember where it was like 20 minutes of it was based around like Natalie and this boy at a party or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is fine, but the Clark Lois story is so emotional and so real here that I could not care less about this little teenage party thing going on. And I think sometimes the show could like be a little bit better at balancing those sort of things. There's also sometimes like, I don't know, it feels like every time they try and make Kyle sympathetic, the next episode they'll give him something that is like, oh, this is why you should hate Kyle again, by the way. And I'm like, sometimes, can we not just develop the character a little bit rather than pushing him back to where he was? But I think just when it comes to like the actual family dynamics with Clark, Lois, and the boys, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, Kyle might actually be one of the most frustrating fictional characters I've ever had.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I simultaneously love him and hate him all at the same time. Like, you're right. Every other episode, it's different. Where we go like, oh, he's getting better. He's improving. Oh, no, he cheated on his wife. Oh, but he's trying to redeem himself. Oh, no, he's being like a douche to his daughter. Like, it's just like... and I don't know if that's good writing or bad writing, because it's kind of both. Like it
does feel like both, doesn't it? Where it's like, because when they're trying to make him sympathetic, they do such a great job at it.
Yeah.
But then, like, as soon as they bring something else up, like, a new relationship he's in that came out of nowhere, it's like they kind of crash it a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if there's supposed to be an episode in season 3 based around him and Chrissy, isn't there? Which for a 10-episode final
4.
season, that's a choice. Well, we'll see on that.
Yeah, because people have seen the first 3, and I'm curious. They're like, I feel like they purposely didn't show them.
I don't show episode 4 because of that. It better not be what they usually do, where it's like the end of episode 3 is this huge cliffhanger, then episode 4 is something completely unrelated to that, and then episode 5 is where they actually pick up.
But here's what I've said on various platforms, and thus, like, if episode 4 is good, if they somehow make a Kyle and Chrissy episode like just as good as the rest of the season, shout outs to them. Like, this is their chance to prove they have some of the best writers on the staff. Like, they have some of the best writers within the like CW era of stuff, because it's just like because again, Kyle and Chrissy can be good. Like, there's times when I really like them. Yeah. So, and like thus far, I haven't really cared about that relationship. I was like, it's been a little bit of a weird like. Okay, like that kind of like their relationship kind of reminded me of like the James and Lena stuff on Supergirl, where it's like
two characters who don't have a relationship. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, what do you do with Kyle? What do we do with Chrissy? Oh, have them date. Ooh, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? And I'm excited for them to like show me why I should care. Like, I want to care. I want to care about. And Chrissy as a whole, I'm kind of iffy on. Like, I think she's easily the weakest character in the cast. Nothing against.
I'm surprised she's still there. She's been there since like episode 2.
Mm-hmm. Hello, Defunct. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. Defunct says, much agree. I think it seems like good writing because people often falter in real life, but it gets tedious watching. Yeah, that's another thing
sure.
where it like
For sure.
it does sometimes feel realistic. Like it does seem like a father who just like keeps fucking up. Like he doesn't really know what he's doing. He's trying to struggle through, like, people cheat in life. And like obviously not condoning cheating in any way, shape, or form, but obviously that's a thing that happens. And kind of watching someone like, like seeing people try and come back from this and redeem themselves is it's interesting because I feel like we actually don't get a lot of that in media. Like I think typically, as you should, like we write off characters once they cheat. Like, oh, they cheat, they're the bad guy now, get them off screen immediately. Where we now have to watch someone try and live their life post that situation.
Yeah, you're watching the consequences, the fallout, how they change and actively try and fix themselves as a person, which is definitely interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like I actually really do respect it. Like, I feel like traditionally you would see Kyle and Lana make amends and try to fix their relationship, and I think it's important that they didn't, because I think it's important to show like cheating is a line that I think most people won't cross. And I think it's sometimes unhealthy when they fully redeem the cheater, and it's like, well, now they're back together and they're perfect. But it's like, no, that messed up their relationship, and they have to both move on and make amends with that situation. Like, there should be consequences for your actions. So I think I do very much commend them for that. Chrissy's pregnant this season. Also, that I found that was a little random last season.
Oh.
That was a
Wait,
weird.
did they reveal that last season? I must have forgotten about that. Wow,
yeah, it was like that was the finale, because Kyle was in the parade. He's like, I'm gonna be a father again. It's like, okay.
I need to rewatch. I'm gonna be rewatching season 2 and 3 over the weekend. I'm rewatching season 1 at the moment, so we'll see how I feel about all that stuff.
I might just go through and watch some reactions to the maybe the blind wave reactions or something. Just get myself
they're always great for Superman and Lois.
Oh, I love those reactions so much. Yeah, absolutely. But okay, so season 4 as a whole, we are adapting the death of Superman, which I mean, that alone, let's just talk about that for a minute, because I didn't think they would. Like, when it was announced it was going to be the final season, I honestly did not think they were going to do it. I thought they were going to wrap up the Doomsday stuff mostly off screen. We would return to our regular scheduled programming, and unless their marketing team is just brilliant, it does seem like we are at least doing some version of the death of Superman story.
Yeah.
How do you feel just about that on a basis? Just that they're doing it.
So I got a fair bit to say about that, I guess. So I know a lot of people are definitely over the death of Superman storyline. I feel like that's probably the most done Superman storyline in terms of outside of the comics, in terms of the animated stuff, the live action shows and movies. It does feel like death of Superman is almost always touched on in some capacity. The DCEU obviously did it. Smallville did it briefly. We recently had the animated 2-parter on the DC movie universe, which I thought the animated Death of Superman film was fantastic. But I know, understandably, for a lot of those reasons, it makes sense that a lot of people would not want to see this done again, would not want to see this done in this show. But I feel like we have to have gotten Death of Superman eventually in this show, because it's the one thing they've been setting up constantly since the show began.
Yeah.
We had the Eradicator, Superboy, steal a lot of characters that are very, very, very important for the Death of Superman storyline involved in season 1 somehow, which that alone is we're already getting the characters on the board. Season 2 was very, 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 very clearly trying to make people think Doomsday was the villain. The end of the season 2 premiere, where Clark hears these bangs coming in the distance, and then we see, somebody breaking through, doing the iconic, the fist comes through the ground, the exact same way the Death of Superman comics open up. Then Bizarro comes out in the Doomsday containment suit,
which was Doomsday,
exactly. And yes, then he obviously becomes Doomsday. I could there's
that's one of the coolest things they ever did. No, shout out to them for a minute, because they had come out and was that's Doomsday, guys. Guess what? It's Doomsday.
And it was.
You idiots! It's Bizarro. You lied to us. How dare you do this? And I don't know if that was their plan then, I hope it was though, because that's so funny.
It feels like it could have been. It feels like it's planned enough that it could have been, because like that whole montage where Lex is just shooting everything into Bizarro, and then you're slowly seeing like the parts of Doomsday form on him. I'm like, this is perfect. Like, this is actually peak Superman.
Yeah. Oh man, like that finale. It's such a cool moment, because we had heard rumblings of it being Doomsday. You
Yeah.
know, various people took pictures on sets. They were like, "It's a big rocky creature." We're like, "Could be Doomsday." A lot of people
Coincidence.
were there were the big theory for a while that it was going to be like the villain Cancer, like the villain called Cancer. We're like, that'd be way too
Oh,
on the
whoa.
nose
Yeah,
for
I'd
the
hate if they
season.
did
Like,
that.
that'd be crazy.
That'd be so like tone deaf, like insensitive. I feel like.
So yeah, like we had it in our mind, but like the slow build of
Yeah.
like, is it? It is! Whoa, that's so cool! And like that, what, like a 5-minute fight, like giant fight scene on network television, low budget, like, say, like, okay, like I know there's a lot of people, it doesn't look that good, but like, I'd argue it's pretty on,
I
no,
thought it
maybe
looked
not
great.
as good. Like, I think like BVS versus this, like, maybe doesn't look as good as BVS, but I think it's pretty close. Like,
I think Superman and Lois did a better looking Doomsday versus Superman fight than the
okay.
DCEU did.
Okay.
Personally, I think it like I don't know. I didn't see Superman and Doomsday fight on the moon in Batman v Superman, whereas they did fight on the moon in Superman and Lois. So
that was crazy. Like, there's a
yeah.
part of me, and I said like, it would have sucked. But if that was the final shot of the whole show, like if that's how it ended,
that would have been a badass
sucked.
final shot.
That's
honestly.
A cool shot.
It is.
Like, I almost kind of pitched that as the final moment, because I kind of want something similar where it's like, not in the sense he's gonna die, but like I think in a sense like, kind of like how Incredibles ended the first movie, where it's like,
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, like they're off, I'm off, and it goes and they're about to punch and it, you know, like I think that's cool, just with
I like
the less
that.
dramatic.
It's like a story never ends.
Yes, exactly. The Funk said they keep pulling the old switcheroo. They absolutely do. They definitely change.
I remember getting a little. I remember when they revealed Bizarro wasn't Doomsday. I remember being kind of annoyed and being like, "They did this in season 1. Why are they doing this? Is the same as Morgan Edge and Tal Rowe. Why are they doing this again?"
Yeah.
But like in hindsight, that was pretty awesome the way they ended up doing it. I don't know. It's also such a tragic story for Bizarro. Like, he was like a genuinely good Clark who was just getting frustrated a lot. Who just, you know, things were just constantly going wrong in his life, so he was getting a little bit more frustrated, and then he was messed around by Ali, and just, you know, then forced to come to Earth, where things went wrong for him, well, the Superman and Lois Earth, and then becomes Doomsday. It's so tragic.
Yeah. This show has had a pretty, I guess Alec kind of sucked, but I feel like in general they've had a pretty good lineup of villains. Like, I think Tal Rowe was good, Bizarro was good, so far Lex is good.
Hope we see Tal again.
I don't think he is, but I really want him in the season. I really hope they've surprised us with a little.
Because they said that there's a few cameos from characters, and like I know people like jump straight away to seeing like Arrowverse people, but I think it's more like, you know, that people like Tal Rowe will see. I think it'd be cool to see Lucy again or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know if I want Arrowverse people at this point, because I feel like, I don't know, I guess depending how they do it. Like, if they have a little thing at the end that kind of ties them back into everything, I'd be like, okay. But like, I've heard people be like, Melissa's Supergirl should show up as this version. It's like, I would hate that. I would absolutely hate that, because like, you've disconnected itself. You are separate from the Arrowverse. Use it. If you're doing Supergirl, bring in your own Supergirl. Again, like when Lex was coming, it was a little sad because obviously that meant the end of the Arrowverse continuity.
Yeah.
But like, they get to do their own thing with it. They're bringing in Jimmy this season. They get to have their own version of it.
I'm excited to see their Jimmy.
Yeah, me too. I think that was, I actually forget who they casted, but I remember liking it. I think I liked it. Oh, well,
I think I forgot as well. I know the Superman movie.
Is it even confirmed? I think it's confirmed, right? Yeah. Superman and Lois. Are you looking it up? Okay. If you want, you can share your screen.
Fourth and final season casts. Percy. Yeah, one second. I can share my screen now. How do I do that on this?
Oh, there should be a little thing that says present at the bottom of the.
Yep. Share screen. Okay. Superman Lois. There, is that coming up to you?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty
Percy
good.
Jackson's
I get,
fair.
yeah, because this casting and the Superman movie casting kind of came out, I think, similar, like
Yeah,
around.
yeah, around the same time, I feel like.
So yeah, like I keep imagining that guy, and it was like, wait, no, that's for the movie.
Yeah, because I feel,
Kid,
because to be
kid
honest,
from
the
the
one they
Mormon.
cast for the movie is just, he just looks like Jimmy.
That's
Like
Jimmy also.
it's crazy. Yeah. Okay, so he's from the Percy Jackson movies. Okay, I was like, I don't remember him from the TV show. Okay, I don't think I've seen him in anything.
No, yeah, he looks good. I think especially, I imagine it's probably gonna be like a one-off. If I'm gonna be completely honest, I hope, like, I'd love to see him in present day. Like, I think that'd be very fun to see what their dynamic was in the past. Because have they mentioned him before in the season?
They did.
Like,
They
in the
mentioned
show?
him in season 1. I remember when they were doing the flashback episode. One of them came in and was like, it might have been the guy playing Ron Troop. He was like, Jimmy caught a picture of Superman flying over this place or whatever. I think that was the only reference we got.
Gotcha. Yeah, because like there was interviews recently where they're like, "Oh, we're bringing in a big character from the comics. We didn't think we'd be allowed to use them, but I think fans
I don't
would be
think
very
it's Jimmy
happy."
like that they're talking
You don't?
about.
Who do you think then?
I feel like I can't think of a reason they wouldn't be allowed to use Jimmy. You know, if they're allowed to use Lex Luthor and they're allowed to use like other Superman characters, I don't think James Gunn would block off Jimmy Olsen just because he's using him in the movie. I feel like it's probably a Superman villain. But I feel like it's one that, like,
let's go.
Whoa, imagine do what Smallville did, bring in Darkseid at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of what villain they haven't really. I mean, I guess they haven't done proper Zod yet. They briefly did him in season 1, but it was
true.
like Tyler Hoechlin being Zod.
But would they not be allowed to use Zod?
I feel like they'd have to be, right?
I feel like there's not, like, if you're using Superman, Lex Luthor, I feel like those are the biggest ones, because like My Adventures with Superman, they weren't allowed to use Lex Luthor, which is dumb in my opinion. That's so
that is really
if you can use Superman, why can't you use Lex? That's so dumb.
Exactly. Yeah, it should be hand in hand. It could be Brainiac. Brainiac 5
Brainiac would be nuts. That'd be sick. Yeah, I'd be curious. I guess I'm kind of just burned by like what I think the other shows would do. Eric Wallace would do this a lot, where they'd hype up a big thing. Where like, oh, we actually knew that like 6 months ago. The like Daniel Nicolette thing last season, where like, guys, we have a huge character coming in.
Was that the Damien one?
Final episode. It was Damien Dark. We're like,
okay. Because I remember we were like Oliver or Clark or something like that, and it was like
Oliver,
Damien
Clark,
Dark.
Wally,
and he'd already been in the season 2, so it wasn't like it was a big thing. Like we'd already had him.
That was so disappointing. And that was the same week as Superman and Lois was confirmed to be not set in the Arrowverse. That was a sad time. It was like we were so defeated as a fandom.
Yeah, because didn't Todd Helbing say a few months before that, he was like, we'll address why Barry and Kara haven't been in the show so far. So everyone was like, the cameo is going to be connected to Superman and Lois, and we're going to get a mini crossover or something like that. Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, kind of speaking of the Arrowverse stuff, I mean, Tom Cavanaugh is still set to appear in the season, in the finale.
He's a new character, isn't he?
Apparently a brand new character he's never played before. How are you feeling on that now that it's sat with us a little bit?
Well, I'm fine with it. Even if he's not playing a Wells, I think everyone can be like, pretend he's a Wells anyway, and he's just using a different name or something like that. Just be like, Tom Cavanaugh is always a Wells, no matter what universe it is, even if he doesn't have that name. Do you think he's going to be playing a comic book character, or is it like an original character?
I don't know. To me, it's such a weird choice, just to be like, yeah, he's in the finale. Like when you hear that, you assume like, okay, they're connecting it some, like, I don't know. It feels weird to bring in such a beloved face from these other shows.
It's like when Stargirl did Jay Garrick or something like that, and it was John Wesley Shipp. It's like they didn't bring in him to be, you know, a random character who is not a big name or something like that, you know?
Like it's almost like the Robert Downey thing recently, where it's like, I don't know. I don't know why you would. Like, I get if it's like a little Easter egg or whatever, but it still seems very confusing, especially if, and honestly, it depends on who it is and how they go about it or whatever. But like, I just think about like the blind white people who don't follow any of the stuff or whatever. Like, what are they going to think when just
they're going to see him be like, oh, Wells.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea who it could be. Like, I've heard some people be like, what if Tom Cavanaugh is Zod? I'd be like, that'd be kind of crazy.
That'd
or
be
something.
insane.
Like he's Brainiac, or like
Yeah.
I've heard people throw in that, and because that is true. Like he is
Yeah.
playing another CW character.
He's only played like 101 CWDC characters. Might as well get to 102.
We should just do an episode where we rank the Tom Cavanaugh characters.
Wow, every
The
world.
various.
All the ones that have
various-
appeared like for a minute in the
Oh,
Council
yeah.
of Wells episode or something.
Like Steampunk Wells or whatever
Yeah,
it was. Oh
Hot
gosh.
take, HR deserved better.
I don't think that's a hot take at all.
Yeah, I don't think that's better. I know he's like really well loved.
Like most people's. I mean, I still prefer Harry. Harry was.
Oh,
my
I love
boy.
Harry. Harry in season 2 is like the best. I think that's also why I love season 2 is because I think he's so good in that.
He's
that
the perfect
season.
love. Yeah.
His dynamic with Cisco is just so funny.
Oh, I think I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I think they should have been done with the swapping by season 4. Like once Harry came back in season 4,
Just
it
keep
should
it
have
as Harry.
been Harry until he left
Yeah.
the show. I think because by Sherlock I couldn't care
Yeah,
less. I was like, all right,
Sherlock
this
was
can
funny for like 2 episodes, and then that was like over it.
yeah, and it's a role that HR could have just played. Like they kind of like, oh, he like Harrison Wells is whatever role they need in the group. HR is smart. Like he's a smart guy, and I know they did like the memory thing with him, but like
Yeah.
he's a smart character. He could have done this like little murder kind of mystery thing with
Yeah.
Nora. Like he could have just done that role.
Yeah.
I don't know. Defunct liked Sherlock, so I'm glad. I didn't hate him. I just thought like, oh, the gimmick's over at this point. Like but I actually did like Nash. Like I thought Nash was kind of like a return to form for them a little bit.
I like just the mystery behind Nash and how it was tying into Crisis. I think was really cool.
Although Nash isn't even that far from like Harry. Like I feel like he's the most similar from like a Harry or even Earth One Wells. So maybe that's why. I agree. But yeah, no. I mean, I'm trying to think anything else we kind of want to bring up. Like, I mean, in terms of like
How
the
they
final
pulled away
season,
from the
like,
Arrowverse and it ruined everything ever. No, I feel like I'm the only person who still hates them for that. Like I'm still real annoyed over that.
Absolutely not. I like every time we bring up Super Lois, there's someone in the chat being like, "Yeah, screw them for doing that." I think it had to be a thing for me though, where it's like, I don't know. I feel like I had to forgive them if I wanted to enjoy the show moving forward.
Sure, yeah. By season 3, I was over it, but like, I remember for like a good 2 months after the season 2 finished, I was like,
I think for any lesser show, I don't know if I could have, but like, I think if this was Batwoman, like I think if like I like Batwoman, but like if Batwoman was like, yeah, we're actually separate now, I'd be like, well, no, well, fuck you. What made Batwoman so special is it was part of that world and it was shared the same universe. It was spending the lore. Where I think, not to bash on Batwoman because I do really like Batwoman, but like Superman and Lois is such a special show, not only to the CW stuff, but to just DC in general. Like I think it's one of the greatest superhero shows ever made, and I was like, that sucks, but I will still support you because you made me fall in love with you on your own merits. Like I love Legends because it's part of an Arrowverse show. Like I love Batwoman and Black Lightning because it's kind of part of that world. Whereas Superman Lois is just, I don't know, a different breed. I feel like.
But I think as well, it's like again, not to bash on Batwoman, but to me it hurts a bit more that Superman and Lois did it. Because it was so cinematically well made and it was so good, and everybody was already like you had people watch. Like I remember like John Campia was like watching the show not knowing it was Arrowverse related, and then as soon as they tied to the Arrowverse, he was like, "Oh, I'm out." Like as soon as Diggle showed up, he was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like I think it hurt more that Superman Lois pulled away because it was kind of like a lot of the people arguing that Superman and Lois was better than the Arrowverse. That came true when Superman and Lois itself pulled away, and it felt like then it was taking that sort of not the high status with it, but it was just taking something with it. Whereas, like I'd argue, Stargirl is slightly better than Superman and Lois. I don't think it's as cinematically. It looks as great as Superman and Lois does, but I think Stargirl, like writing wise, character wise, even special effects wise,
it's more consistent.
It's amazing, and that show still seemed, while not being set on Earth Prime, was still more than happy to have their connections to the Arrowverse without cheapening anything else. Whereas Superman and Lois was like, we don't really owe them anything. Let's just do our own thing, which is fine, but it stings a little more, I guess.
Yeah. Stargirl's so frustrating because it's like they clearly wanted, like they
Yeah.
wanted to be involved.
Yeah,
The
they could have had
cast,
7 seasons if they wanted to, and I would have been there for every one of them.
yeah, I mean, like they clearly, like they were always kind of like they were friends with the other Arrowverse cast. They
Yeah.
said in multiple like interviews they wanted to work with Supergirl and Flash, and clearly that was the plan. Like I felt like all the shows, like I don't know if they would have, but like Titans was doing multiverse, Flash doing multiverse, Stargirl was starting to do multiverse. Like I was thinking maybe there was like a 3-part event with like Titans, Flash, and Stargirl. Like I
seeing the Titans characters, like, because their cast had already been super vocal about not liking the Arrowverse stuff. It would have been crazy.
I think it would have
to see
just
them
been
involved.
Beast Boy, if I'm gonna be honest. Like I think it would have just been Beast Boy kind of coming over.
I'll be okay with that.
Yeah. No, because yeah, they said that like season 4 of Stargirl was supposed to be multiverse, and I was like, that's kind of a weird choice, but maybe they had a grand plan with that. I don't know. Daniel in the chat said, just got a pumpkin spice. Great to see the boys are streaming. I hope you enjoy it. I'm not a huge like pumpkin spice guy. I don't know. I've never had it. I don't know. Not my kind of thing. But you know, in terms of kind of us heading towards the end here, I guess a little bit. Final season. Do we have any kind of, I guess, predictions or kind of things we want to see in this final season? Like, what are things you want to see in the show before we wrap up the show, before it all ends?
I've already kind of mentioned that I would love the tone to be more similar to season 1 than to season 3, but I feel like on top of that, maybe the budget's going to affect that, because season 3 had already seen a cut in the budget, which meant that they had to be far more character focused, and by digging into the characters more, you dug into more serious topics more, whereas season 1 had the budget to allow them to do more Superman things regularly. So I don't know how like likely it's going to be that season 4 will do any of that sort of stuff. I guess I'd hope that, you know, knowing that they're going to do episodes focused on characters like Kyle and Chrissy, that they make it still work in the context of the season, that it doesn't feel like we're stopping the story to do other stuff with these characters. Like, I guess that it doesn't feel like Flash season 9, where when they dropped Barry, there was a clear sense of the story is stopping, the characters are stopping here. Like, if Clark and Lois aren't involved, I still want it to feel like the episodes we're watching are important, and they're not just sort of wasting time, filler, I'm really excited for the flashback episode we're apparently getting in episode 9, because the flashback episode in season 1 is my favorite episode of the show. The Bizarro World set episode in season 2 is my favorite episode of season 2, so I'm really excited to see what they do in season 4 with that, and if it feels like the season 1 version.
If that's episode 9, then there must be a lot of flashback stuff, because I think the first couple have, like, there's photos from the first couple episodes with them in the Daily Planet. Like, I think that photo with Lex in, like, the like Daily Planet with Lois, I think that's from
I do think that's an early one, but I think they said episode 9 is, like, almost entirely flashbacks. Yeah, because I remember they were, like, showing pictures of them at, like, a Smallville, like, baseball game or something like that, and it was, like, during the filming of the penultimate episode.
As a penultimate, that's a weird choice to me, to have that be.
I can see it as, like, if something huge happens in episode 8, we revisit the past in episode 9 to see how that affects the future, sort of thing. I think that's something that I think a lot of shows tend to do a lot, is like in their final episodes, they'll have one episode completely focused on something from before to like show how that connects to the future, or show how that'll connect to after the show. Well, wait, what's your thoughts on the thing that, because they said that the final episode is going to do something that no Superman media has done before. What do you think that is?
I think it's going to be a passing of the mantle. I think we're going to get a time jump. I think
like
Jordan, and potentially Jonathan, depending what they do, will carry the mantle. And not necessarily pass it, because I think Superman should still be Superman, but like I guess share the mantle of Superman. So there's more than one. I think that, like, to me, that just makes sense with the theme of the show. Like, I think, you know, to answer my own question, what I want to see, I do want to see a time jump at some point in the finale. Like, I think it's very important. Obviously, they had a 7-season plan for the show. There's a lot of story they wanted to tell with these characters, and I do think we need to see at least Jordan become some version of Superboy or Superman or whatever it may be.
It's very Stargirl-like ending, where like you find out she became Starwoman 10 years in the future. You know, you find out Jordan became Superman.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's what... I think that's probably what they're going to be like referring to. Like, I've heard a lot of people be like, he's going to die. And I was like, Why would
That's
they kill him off, bring him back just to kill him?
yeah,
That'd
no,
be
yeah, that's not a very smart narrative choice.
so stupid. No, of course. That'd be terrible ending to
Yeah.
Superman Lois if they killed Clark off. We'll see. In terms of things they could, I don't know what else they could do that no other Superman show has done. That's not like a large pool. Like
I guess Marvel's done a lot though.
Marvel's done a lot. I guess that's
Yeah.
true. I guess that's true.
I saw people say that like, oh, it'll be Clark revealing his identity to the world, which Smallville did already do that super briefly, but also it would be insane if Superman and Lois ended the same way that Supergirl did. Like,
Yeah.
for all their attempts to separate the two shows, for them to just do the same thing in the final that Supergirl did in their final would be ridiculous.
I don't know why you would. Like,
I
don't
can't
know.
think of a reason why you'd need to reveal his identity.
Like, everyone close in his life already knows the
Yeah.
secret. Like, I didn't get that take either. I was like, I mean, maybe if we were just throwing out ideas, sure.
Yeah.
I even just thought, like, in my weird brain, I'm like, what if it's just Bruce Wayne? Like, what if Bruce Wayne just shows up? Is like, hey guys, what's up?
Just high fives
Like,
Clark.
Yeah, like no other Superman
Most
show's done Bruce Wayne, I guess. Or I guess Superman the Animated Series has, but maybe they're not counting that. I don't know.
Sure, yeah, maybe they're only counting live action. I've seen people say like, what if they do whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow as like, well, because we know that the Superman movie is going to be kind of taking a lot of cues from that, where it's like, you know, the reveal at the end of whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow is that, you know, Superman gave up his powers and now he's living a secret life with Lois, where everybody thinks Superman died 15, 20 years ago, whereas in reality he just gave up everything and is now just living with Lois. But I mean, that's pretty much what the Smallville reveal was after Crisis on Infinite Earths.
And people
think that's super likely. Yeah, people did hate it. Yeah, I think people hated that though, because Smallville, because when you add up the timelines, it means that Smallville Clark gave up his powers like a year after Smallville ended. Whereas if you do it in Superman Lois, you can like make it work by being like it happened 15 years from now or something like that. I don't know.
It could potentially be though. So there actually might be some validity to that, because that's similar to what the Earth Prime comics did, right? Because like they Earth Prime Superman was retired at that time. It was supposed to be
Earth Prime Superman is canon to the. That's it. We were actually looking at Superman, Lois, Superman.
But like maybe because at the time, right, they considered it canon. Like they were all supposed to be connected then. So maybe I don't know. Maybe that was their plan, but I wouldn't like that personally. I don't think I would like that either. Yeah, I don't know. But he is an older Superman. Like he's been doing this for 20 years. Yeah. Maybe we timed up another 10 years, maybe. But we'll see.
I think your idea makes the most sense of it being like Jordan taking over the mantle or something like that, because I can't think of another Superman thing that has done that, of like actually giving up the mantle.
Absolutely. Trying to look through some of these comments really quick. As long as season 4 doesn't turn into the Flash season 9, we are good. Yeah, LOL.
I hard agree.
I would be okay. That's a fun question. Where do you think this season will rank compared to other CW final seasons, like the other like BCT?
I have a very, very, very soft spot for Arrow season 8. I don't see it toppling that. I think Stargirl season 3 is really, really good. I would be surprised if Superman and Lois season 4 beats Stargirl season 3. Well, I guess it is Superman, so I guess like they don't have to do a whole lot for me to be like to love it. But I love Stargirl season 3. I think it will definitely beat Flash season 9. Supergirl season 6 I thought was kind of a weak final season. Yeah. Black Lightning season 4 I was really disappointed in.
Terrible.
I liked Batwoman season 3 and I liked Legends season 7, but both didn't feel very final to me. So I think like for that reason, like Superman and Lois will probably beat them, because it does feel like it's going to be a proper final season. Yeah. So yeah, I think it'll be a toss up between it and Stargirl probably for me, but I don't see it beating Arrow, in my opinion. But I know I'm somebody who loves Arrow season 8, whereas a lot of people don't.
Yeah. I'll be curious, because again, I think it has very high potential. There's also some things in there that I feel like could trip them up. Like again, they lost some writers, they have less of a budget. There's a Kyle episode. Like I could see it going either way,
Kyle.
where it's
like Kyle episode's going to lower the season for you.
It could. I mean, listen, Flash has had those episodes where it's like it's you know, it's a Cecile episode, and we're like, please God, don't this is not good. Yeah. But I trust these writers more than the Flash writers, unfortunately.
Which is crazy, because Todd was like the main Flash writer for a while.
Yeah, which is crazy. Really crazy. Yeah, I'd say probably top 3. I think I agree with you. I don't love Arrow season 8 as much as you do, but like I think
That's pretty
Supergirl
common
still...
consensus. I feel like people don't love Arrow season 8.
Yeah, I don't. I think it has a good episode, but as a whole, I was like, yeah. Stargirl's gonna be very hard for it to beat for me. I thought the Stargirl final season, I think it was the best final season out of all these shows, and I didn't even know it was their final season. Like they were like, well, it might be, so let's just like. They weirdly enough had this full circle moment with like ISO coming back and kind of being the main villain again, and like the song, like everything with Starman felt like a full circle
Starman
moment.
stuff was so good. With the way Courtney takes the staff from him in the final episode and is like, "You're not worthy what I am." Like that's such a good ending for her character.
That's a full circle arc.
Yeah.
No. Like they somehow made the perfect final season, and it wasn't supposed to be their final season.
Exactly,
like that's crazy. That's so crazy. They had like the new like the new LSA or whatever kind of coming in, and oh my gosh, it's crazy. Daniel said, "I want to see a time jump to maybe see John and Jordan's kids."
Have to recast them for that, wouldn't they?
That's a huge. Well, yeah, you would need. How old are the cast? How old are they?
I think they're like early 20s, mid 20s.
Maybe. That's a huge...
I know that Jordan's actor hangs out with Breck from Stargirl a lot. On like Instagram, they're always like on each other's pictures and stuff, which is crazy. That could have been such a cool crossover.
Oh my gosh. I think Stargirl and Superman Lois was the perfect combination of crossovers. Because they're the same theme. Like it's this like
for sure.
legacy hero kind of teaching their children how to like building up like the next generation, and then you have like I think Barbara and Lois would have been a great combo, just like two, I don't know, like wives of the heroes that are trying to be involved as much as they can, even though they can, like Pat and Clark would have been such a fun like dynamic. Oh my gosh,
God, I love Pat so much. I need him back. I need more Pat in my life.
Give me Sportsmaster and like Tauro.
That show, it just had so much potential. You could have made 50 seasons of that show and I would have been there for it.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna miss it. 2 years since it ended, isn't it?
If Arrow finished at season 5, it would have been a stellar final season.
I agree. I think Arrow season 5 was such a good like final. Like Leon Yu would have been is still considered one of the best Arrowverse episodes of all time. So
yeah, I mean obviously outside of the huge cliffhanger. Like I feel like if it was a 2-part finale, they beat Prometheus, they go back home, they have some sort of ending. I don't know. Potentially. I think it'd feel weird to end at 5 seasons though. Like I don't know. I feel like ending so like close, or I guess like at the kind of beginning of the Arrowverse in a weird way. Like I think or I guess middle.
Missing a lot of crossovers.
Yeah, like I don't know. I'm glad they continued, but that's still the best episode of I think the entire Arrowverse is Lian Yu. Like that's a perfect episode of TV for me.
I go back and forth on either if it's that or Tree Ghosts. I love Tree Ghosts as well.
I go like 3 Ghosts is up there. I go with this one. I think is it Finish Line? No. Which is the episode? It's a mid-season premiere when Barry goes back in time and Joe dies and Wells is revealed to Cisco is like, you've always been a brother, or you've always been a son to me, Cisco. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. I
think it's that and also I think Crisis on Earth X Part 1. I love that episode just because it's all
with the wedding and stuff.
Yeah, that's like peak Arrowverse to me. I love that episode so much.
I love Welcome to Earth 2 from Flash season 2. I think that's my favorite Flash episode. I think that episode's just so fun.
We'll have to do like a top 10 Arrowverse episodes at some point. That'd be really
I'm
fun.
Finally going to do my rewatch. Like, I think towards the end of this year, I'm gonna finally start my rewatch, so we can do that ranking at some point. Finally,
because I'm really wanting to do like a rewatch. If you would like, maybe we could do some sort of like, I don't know, combined journey or whatever.
I'd be 100% on board with that.
Because I've been going back and forth because like, do I want to commit to it? Because there's a lot of that. Like, there's a lot of you have to commit to. But I was thinking like after Superman and Lois, maybe trying to do something with.
Yeah, that ends when early December.
Yeah,
I'm down to start a rewatch then if you want.
Yeah, I'll be down. I'll be down to doing something for sure.
Cool.
All right, so we're kind of just going on a ramble at this point. But is there anything for this upcoming season that you haven't seen, or I'm sorry, that we haven't talked about that you would like to kind of mention going into it all?
Well, there's 2 things I want. Okay, I want Tom Cavanagh in the final episode to be playing Eobard Thawne so that him and Clark can finally have their race from Crisis on Earth X. I also want the final moment of the show to be Jay Garrick from the moment Stargirl ended. He comes through a breach and then he goes, Clark, Courtney Whitmore and the JSA needs your help, and he's got Shade with him from the final of Stargirl as well, and then they jump through the breach, and then it says the story never ends, just like
I would unironically love it. People would be pissed.
It's never ever going to happen, but I would love it too.
Honestly, yeah, I would. I would be open. The fan base would fucking hate it.
No,
like
they'd
the people, like
shit.
the superhero or like the Superman Lois like exclusives. They hate the other shows. They'd be
they hate
irate. Irate. Like they would be so.
It'd be so funny though.
It would, yeah. No, like I do have a hard time thinking Tom's cameo doesn't have something to do with the Arrowverse. Like I just have a hardest time.
If it's in the final, it's got it right. Why are you doing
so
that in the
weird.
final episode?
It'd be so weird if he's like, "Hey guys, I'm Cyborg Superman." It's like,
no, literally, right?
Like, why else do it?
Like,
I don't.
I'm a doctor, Dr. Zod. Like, what are you doing here?
No sense. He has to have something. I don't want to get my hopes up for it, but like.
They're probably going to be clever about it, and it's going to be like whatever his name is. It's going to be like an anagram of Harrison Wells or something like that. So like it's like a little Easter egg to figure out.
Yeah, it's like Harold, Aaron, Ronald, like Aaron.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but no, again, I want to see a satisfying final season. I'm glad they're getting their wrap up. You know, I've been with arguments where people were like, well, they were canceled and they didn't get it. I was like, well, softly canceled, I suppose, because they wanted those 7 seasons. But I'm glad they're getting it. So many of these other shows that we love are not getting that. Walker didn't get that. Stargirl didn't necessarily get that.
Walker Independence was so good.
Batwoman and Legends, especially those two.
Legends deserved at least some sort of like final little event just to finish up on.
Poor Katie, man. Like, she committed so many hours and years to that universe.
She was there longer than Grant.
No, 100%. She might be the longest running, like, Arrowverse star. Because, like, Arrow, after Arrow ended... Steven, then.
Like, in terms of, like, time spent, she probably would have beat out Steven. Well, I guess unless you're counting Steven coming back.
I guess Arrow had more episodes, right? So Arrow would have...
You had David as well, constantly coming back for other stuff.
Oh. Yeah, David too. Which I feel bad for David too, because he almost got a spin-off like twice or whatever. Like it's crazy. So many weird things with this universe. But no, I'm glad it's back. I'm excited to dive into the final season. It'll be a really fun time. But with that being said, Connor, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, really man. It's always a blast just to shoot the shit and have fun with this universe that we love, or the past universe that we love. Connor, where can people find you?
So you got my channel Exit Over Here, where I've not uploaded in like 4 months after making a video saying I was going to be uploading a lot more. So yeah, but I'm gonna try and get back into it properly. Maybe amazing. Superman and Lois, I'll try and like soft get back into it, do reviews every week or something like that. Which would be really fun. Because I think kind of before my little Star Trek era of YouTube, I was Superman Lois season 3, so I made like a lot of videos on that, I think. So maybe I might do the same for season 4, and I mean, it's the final CW DC show. I feel like I've got to do something. Like, people don't consider it Arrowverse, but it's kind of the last connected thing to that era of TV. So I mean, I feel like I've got to do something for it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's crazy. Again, like we talked about this at the start, but like feels like we moved on from it and now it's back, and it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, we gotta have fun with this. We gotta do something. Absolutely. Yeah, guys, make sure to stay tuned. Next week on the pipeline, I think will be our Joker. I think I'll do a Joker 2 episode. Let's see how that goes. I'll be curious how much there is to talk about that movie. If maybe it's a 5-minute episode, we're like, whatever.
Yeah, it was a movie.
It's a big comic book movie we got to talk about. And join me on Tuesdays where we'll be doing Darren After Credits. We will be talking about Superman Lois every week, along with Agatha and Penguin, and probably a little bit Daryl Dixon as well thrown in there. Just a lot of good TV on right now. It's a really good time.
There is, yeah.
We had to take a break from the show for almost like 2 whole months because there really wasn't some. I don't know. There wasn't really any shows on. Once kind of like The Acolyte and The Boys and stuff started to end. So
a lot of nerdy shows haven't been on for a while.
Yeah. So it's definitely nice to be back. And without further ado, you guys, but we will see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.
Bye.